Pokemon Ninjutsu Master Chapter 1151-1200. Ellipsis. Chapter 1151. Luokan. Yi shouted and was about to rush up, but Urahara pulled her back and said, Luokan will be fine, don't be impulsive. Yi slowly calmed down, but his vision was still inseparable. I saw that the smoke had dissipated, and a bottomless ravine had been blown out from the original ground. Was it blown up or was it annihilated and disappeared directly? No. However, the attack power of Void Flash can never be underestimated, not to mention that it is launched by an opponent of this level. But Luo Chen was unscathed. He stood on the side of the gully, brushing the dust off his body, and his expression was peaceful, without the embarrassment of being attacked just now. Yami was taken aback and shouted, "This is impossible. What means did you use?" He retreated again and again, unable to believe that his attack would fail. This often happens to people who are very confident in their own strength. He was about to step back behind Ozila, and Luo Chen smiled and said, "Since you want to know so much, then I'll show you." Luokan's Zanpakuto emitted a fiery red aura, and 9 spurs began to appear. This was the prelude to Shiji. Cut. Luokan knew that he also had to be able to use long-range attacks, so he learned from Ichigo's Crescent Moon Tianchong and made improvements. A swift and violent modified version of the Crescent Moon Sky Chong rushed towards Yami, who is still holding onto it, and still only uses the Zanpakuto to resist. When Ulquiorra saw that something was wrong, he rushed forward immediately, covered his body with spiritual power, and punched out, knocking the improved version of Crescent Moon Chong away. Although he didn't change his face, in fact, his right hand had been injured. He put it down, knowing that there was only himself and he couldn't fight. "Let's go, Yami, go back and report our investigation status to Aizen-sama. After a while, the support from Soul Society will also be available. I don't want to be entangled with these garbage." After speaking, the two of them returned to the crack in the space, and they disappeared as soon as they dodged. Urahara said, "Their purpose is just to investigate. They come fast and run fast, but the human world is probably going to change." Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot seeking flowers katakana middle dot 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 katakana middle dot. Luokan complained, "Don't just sigh, there are still wounded here. Besides, has the support from Soul Society arrived?" Everyone woke up the injured person and took Ichigo back home, but Ichigo didn't say much along the way. Even if Orihime asked him, he answered mechanically. The whole person seemed to be a broken clockwork toy. And like a puppet without a soul, it is unpredictable. Luokan looked in his eyes and knew where the crux was. Because Ichigo was dominated by the emptiness in his heart and the power in his heart, it can't go on like this. A day later, Ichigo was still attacked by that feeling of loss, and he was listless, but he was trying his best to maintain his vitality. Only Luo Chen could see that there was still a fog in his heart. Is this the so-called protagonist growth? But it's enough at this critical juncture. Why don't you want me to be his mentor? Yaiki and Urahara have both played such roles. 100 million. Chapter 1152. After school was over, the classroom was empty, but Ichigo was in a daze all the time, unaware that everyone around him had left, and Luokan didn't make a sound to see if Ichigo could wake up on his own. At this moment, the door of the classroom was suddenly opened, and some familiar faces rushed in. Ranju, Renji, Yukino, Tushiro. One corner. So is it still you who are the supporters of the Soul Society? Luo Chen said. What do you mean by 4, 2 and 3? Indeed, although it is us, we are the only ones who are most familiar with the human world, and there is nothing we can do. Renji ran over and shouted while supporting Luo Chen's table, as if he was dissatisfied. Yo, Ichigo. Although everyone greeted him, Ichigo only responded briefly, which made it very strange. What happened to Ichigo? It's nothing, maybe you need to retrain it. Don't worry, I'll come when I go. Luo Chen grabbed Ichigo and rushed out. Luokan, where did you take me? Did you leave them alone? Ichigo asked vaguely. You can't be listless all day, I'll give you a boost. Luo Chen sighed. After all, this task finally fell to him. XXX. No, after thinking about it, I'm still at a loss, just let me see if there is any such task. Luo Chen thought in his heart. System, open the task interface. Ding, the mission has been confirmed. Help the protagonist Ichigo Kurosaki grow up, and you can get 1,000 to 5,000 points at a time. The system quickly replied. Okay, Ichigo, let's wrap this up on me. Luo Chenla has blossomed, and 1,000 points is actually quite a lot, so why not do it if you just talk about it? Luo Chen rushed towards the place where Shu haunted. Shu's spiritual pressure was getting closer and closer, and the two of them could finally see it. Luo Chen stood on the street lamp, threw Ichigo down, and said, fight. Huh, Luoken, what does this mean? You are now in bottleneck, this will not work, you need to fight. Nuo, there is nothing in front of you, defeat it. Luoken explained. It's strange, I'm fine. But when Luo Chen took out the Zanpakuto, a brainstorm was staged in his mind again. Haha, let me do it, you still can't do it. The people, in his heart said, wanting to take Ichigo's body command. But at this time, Ichigo had already started to attack, and Ichigo had to endure physical incongruity and headaches while fighting against him, but the result was predictable, Ichigo was no match for him at all. What's the matter? Can't you do this? So let's change it to me. Ichigo was still resisting, but he was about to give in under him's teaching. Don't give up, Ichigo, have you forgotten the reason why you became a god of death? Luoken's exploding shout was like a thunderclap, awakening Ichigo's heart. Reason. Ichigo gained a momentary peace in his heart. That's right, you don't want to fight because you want to fight. Ichigo, Luo Chen shouted. 4.5 inches. Are you afraid of the emptiness in your heart? What are you afraid of? It's better if this kind of thing becomes stronger. It's better if you don't fight him. Fear can't become stronger. Fear can't protect them. Just become stronger and protect them. Ichigo came to his senses. That's right. You can't say this. Fallen dust. The next moment, Shu was beheaded. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 1153. What did you say? I figured it out. Thank you. Ichigo had completely recovered to his original state, and even Zanpakuto was struggling a little bit. After all, Zanpakuto was also related to soul power. At the same time, Luoken's head also received a prompt message from the system. Ding, congratulations on completing the character who helped the protagonist grow up, get 1,000 points. Okay, let's see, now I have almost 10,000 points, but there is still a long way to go before I can get the ability to blur. During this time, I still need to find a few big virtuals to practice my hands. Luo Chen looked at his own integral. Ichigo put away the Zanpakuto and said, by the way, I seem to remember that some people came from the Soul Society. I remember Renji and... It's not your kid's fault, so let's go home now, I think they've already arrived. Luo Chen mentioned Ichigo and left, and before he brought Ichigo, he told Renji that they went to Ichigo collection at home. The two quickly rushed home, and when they entered Ichigo's room, I saw that Rukia was already sitting on the bed. She saw Ichigo and said, Yo, Ichigo, why are you so slow and let Luoken be so slow? These are not important, the key is how did you come? Luoken replied, of course they came from the Soul realm to support them. Because the movement of the broken face is more and more frequent, their main target is probably not the Soul realm, but the human realm. That's right, Ichigo, Luoken is right. Renji's voice came from the ceiling, and after a while, Gongjin, Aikikaku, Renji, and Matsumoto Ranju removed the chandelier and got out of it. Don't you guys show up normally? You're not a ninja, Luoken complained, and the Nine Tails also mixed in, and only now did he return to Luoken's side. It's really hard to split up during this time, but now I'd better concentrate on guarding against the broken face. Luo Chen stroked the 9 tails. Click. The window opened. Toshiro also appeared outside the window, and sat down on the windowsill. So why are you two? Rukia said, because I'm familiar with the human world, and Renji also has experience in the human world. We happen to be familiar with Luokan and Ichigo, so this matter is left to us. As for the corner, I called, but Gongjin also wanted to follow. I heard that the vice captain of Ranju wanted to come over to join in the fun, so the captain of Hitsugaya also deadlifted. Renji touched his head and said. Luokan clapped his hands and called everyone's attention. Now that everyone is here, let's talk about these things. First of all, the Broken Face is a virtual group that has the powers of the God of Void and the God of Death at the same time, but the Broken Face that is naturally generated is not enough to pose a big threat. Rukia put forward the premise. It's Aizen, it's the appearance of the broken-faced completed body caused by his collapsing jade, and it's not an ordinary emptiness, it must be above the level of Daxu. Luokan added, all these things are exactly Aizen's plan. Is there any more on Daxu? Ichigo is a complete novice. Although his time as a god of death is not short, he is still new to you who have been dying for 100 years. Chapter 1154. That's right, there are also levels of Great Void. The lowest level is Killian. They are the most numerous, most common, but also the weakest Great Void. Luo Chen explained. Further up is Ichuka's. The number is much smaller. Of course, his strength is also very strong. If Killian is a captain-level death god who can easily defeat it, Ichuka's is an existence that the captain cannot underestimate the enemy. Hearing this, Ichigo swallowed and realized the seriousness of this incident, that is to say, the big phantom I have dealt with is only the lowest level Killian. Seeing the incredibleness of Ichigo, Luokan didn't want to attack Ichigo, but he could only brutally say the reality, above Ichuka's is the strongest Vastrodi. Everyone gasped a sigh of relief, because such an opponent cannot be underestimated at all. Even the captain may not be able to fight. It is estimated that only Captain Yamamoto can compete. Toshiro said, but there are not many emptiness of this level, but if Aizen uses the Bengyu, it's hard to say tilde. After the rebellion of the 3 captains and the Soul Hunter incident, the overall strength of the Soul world has become much weaker than before. If there are more than 10 Vastrodi, the Soul world will be finished. Rukia said worriedly. Everyone was silent when they heard this. It was like a stone on their body. After all, no one can guarantee the combat power of the other party. Jue roared, awakening everyone from their contemplation. They looked at Jue and Luokan. The only people who could act as the backbone were Dongshilang and Luo Chen. Luokan said, if you think about this matter, there will be no results, so don't panic. The sky is falling and there is a tall man on it, so don't worry about it, right? Luokan looked at Dongshilang. Although Dongshilang is usually relatively taciturn, he is also very concerned about the team members. He understood Luokan's meaning and said, then let's stay in the human world and be vigilant. Remember, don't beat yourself up. Is this still a god of death? Everyone was encouraged by Shiro in the fall of the dust, and their expressions gradually recovered, knowing that if they continued to be troubled like this, they would let themselves fall into fear. It's not the way to go on like this, so let's all find a place to live. Renji stood up. Ichigo said, you don't want to live in my house, do you? But my house doesn't have that much space anymore. Yijiao said to Gongqin, Diaresis, we won't bother you anymore, we will find a place by ourselves. After speaking, they left. Renji planned to go to the Urahara store to stay overnight, while Matsumoto Renki hurriedly dragged Toshiro to Orahime's residence. Only Rukia said she wanted to stay. I miss my closet. Luokan sighed and said with a smile, it seems that these people are able to cheer up even in the face of the end of the world, why should I worry about them? Okay, do you think so, Nine Tails? Luokan now knows that his strength has also reached a bottleneck, and if he wants to improve, besides fighting, he needs to exchange his points for some new items or abilities. On the other side, after Ulquiorra and Yami left the human world, they came to a place that was separated from the human world and the soul world, and this place was located in the depths of the virtual circle. Lord Eisen, we're back. Chapter 1155. Ulquiorra and Yami came to this space, and there were more than a dozen figures standing beside the hall, all of them wearing half-masks on their faces. Breath. Sitting on the top seat of the many faceless stars holding the moon is Eisen, who betrayed the Soul Society. He looked at Ulquiorra and Yami with a smile. Haha, look who it is. How did you do it so badly, Yami? You still have injuries. Euphonian laughed. Yami was at a loss, so naturally he did not speak, and gave Ulquiorra full authority to answer, but Ulquiorra ignored them, and just said to Eisen, "Please allow us to report." Eisen nodded. Ulquiorra told Yami about going to human world and fighting this time. Although Eisen didn't make a statement, he was ridiculed by one of them. "You said on the surface that they were trash, didn't you just escape back like that? Shouldn't that Ichigo and Luoken be dealt with now? Grimjow, Luoken is just a slightly over-the-top Reaper, and at most he has the strength of a Reaper captain. And Ichigo Kurosaki, I don't think he has the strength to be called a threat, and he is uncertain. Sex is also high and I think he has the potential to be on our side," Ulquiorra replied. "Cut. What if he grows to a very strong level later? At that time, I can get rid of him myself." The two still wanted to argue, but Eisen stopped them and said, "The information you brought back is good, and we can observe it for a while." They don't know about Luoken's thoughts on this side. They lived a seemingly unremarkable night as usual, but they also had a hunch that the Rumian or masked army should be active in the near future, so still can't let down your guard. Whether it's Renji of the Urahara store, Yu Kinwa who was walking in a high-rise building, or Renku and Tushiro who were staying at Orahime's house, they were all waiting quietly. "Ooh, it's too miserable, just let you stay," Kurosaki said excitedly. He was about to cry. But Luoken and Ichigo both had doubts on their faces, and Kurosaki Isshin was moved by Rukia's completely untragic life experience. However, Rukia stayed successfully. Everyone ate dinner together. Rukia was placed in a separate room, slightly dissatisfied. "I wanted to sleep in that tattered closet." At this moment, they felt several unbridled and powerful spiritual pressures radiating over the entire city without any scruples. "Do you feel it?" Luoken reminded Rukia and Ichigo and said. "Yeah, here comes the broken face." Even Ichigo, who is not very sensitive to Reiatsu, can feel these broken faces, also very bold. At the same time, Grimjow has come to the human world with several broken faces. He is very dissatisfied with Ulquiorra's actions, and believes that all threats should be eliminated as soon as possible. "Well, did the scan reveal anything?" Grimjow confirmed. "Well, it's different from what Ulquiorra said. There are a lot of guys with powerful Reiatsu, probably the support of Soul Society." Chapter 1156. Grimjow said, "Any support? Forget it. As long as all the people who were scanned by Reiatsu are removed, there can be no hidden dangers. Take action." Everyone split up and headed towards the target they chose. Luo Chen quickly locked the specific locations of all the broken faces through the system's reverse tracking function. They didn't even come in. "What should we do now?" Ichigo and Rukia asked. Luoken looked at the moving direction of Zhang Pomian, and suddenly woke up. "Go to Chadu, he is in danger." Because Orihime, Matsumoto Renki and Tushiro were together, and Renji was in the Urahara store, they were all safe. Only Chado was injured in the last battle. Although Chadu was injured, he could still feel it. There was a powerful and hostile Reiatsu rapidly approaching. Chadu immediately ran towards the place with few people. He didn't want to implicate innocent people. "Really, isn't it the god of death? But forget it, die obediently, at the hands of me, De Roy." Pomian had already chased after him. He saw Chadu, but was slightly disappointed. "Oh, really? On the contrary, you are really lucky to meet the three gods of death in one fell swoop." When Luoken, Ichigo, and Rukia appeared in front of them. Chadu breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. He originally thought he could only fight to the death this time. Oh, then I'm really lucky. Are you going to go up one by one or together? Me, number 16 De Roy can do it. De Roy shrugged, showing excitement under his pale mask with an expression on his face. He didn't take the three people in front of him into his eyes at all. Chado, get back. I'll fight. Ichigo shouted. He felt that Chado was injured, and now he couldn't fight anymore. Falling Chen supported his forehead, knowing that Ichigo had stabbed the basket again this time. In normal battles, if there is such a dialogue, maybe it's bad. That's right, Chadu's self-esteem was hurt. He used to be taciturn and regarded Ichigo as his best friend, but now he thinks that Ichigo doesn't need him in battle anymore. When Ichigo looked back, he realized that Chadu had already left. He was at a loss, not knowing where Chadu had gone. Luokan and Rukia looked at Ichigo and didn't know what to say. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot seeking flowers katakana middle dot 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 katakana middle dot. Luokan stood in front of Yihu and said, Ichigo, step back, this shoe is still my prey. What? Rukia also stood up. Ichigo, stand back, I'll fight. Why are you like this too? Luokan asked. Rukia, have you regained the power of the god of death? Well, let's just say it's a recovery. After all, I didn't do nothing in the soul realm. Although the god of death in the soul realm does not have the powerful recovery ability of a soul hunter, he can slowly absorb the spirits. But your injury has just healed, so you can't force yourself too hard. Ninetales, since you're so eager to try, I'll let you go. Ninetales have been grinding their teeth and claws on Luokan's shoulders from the beginning, wanting to fight, and immediately jumped down happily upon hearing Luokan's permission. XXX. D. Lola said angrily, you are looking down on me. Don't you look down on us too. I'll teach you a lesson, there are many people in this world that you can't look down on besides Aizen. Ninetales, come on. 100 million. Chapter 1157. That's it, is it worth comparing with Aizen-sama? You look down on me too much, you don't need to take action personally, you will be killed by me. D. Lola rushed forward, and there was no nine-tailed existence in his eyes at all, because he felt that the nine-tailed posed no threat to him at all. However, this is not the case in Juwei's eyes. Juwei actually raised his brows like falling dust, and he could feel that the broken face in front of him definitely looked down on him. Roar! Ninetales dodged and resisted between D. Lola and Luo Chen, trying desperately to teach D. Lola a lesson. Dodge! D. Lola didn't use a weapon, but just stretched out his knife. Ninetales seized the opportunity and took a bite. Click! In that instant, Ninetales devoured Dorora's entire right arm. Delora was startled, and quickly retreated to the rear, with the slightest trace of sweat oozing out of his face. He did not expect that even a small beast could force him back. What kind of creature is that? D. Lola quickly pulled away and floated above the sky with the help of spiritual power. Okay, your strength is indeed strong, but how are you going to get up now? When I fix my arm, you will all be dead. Luo Chen smiled slightly and said, Ninetales, lift the restrictions and give this guy a big-tailed beast jade. Ninetales heard the order and wagged its tail happily. It also looked at D. Lola was upset, since he was the one who provoked first, he didn't blame his own methods for being ruthless. Juwei roared and opened its mouth. A fist-sized beast-tailed jade appeared in its mouth, and instantly swelled to the size of a basketball. D. Lola sensed something was wrong with the spiritual energy around him. Why are they all gathered there? What's going on? Such a powerful spiritual energy response is stronger than Lord Grimjow's usual strength. Ninetales spit out the tailed beast jade, as if it directly swallowed the space between Ninetales and D. Lola. The tailed beast jade arrived in front of him in an instant, and it was too late to react. Yeah, D. Lola was swallowed by the explosion of the tailed beast jade, and Ninetales also converted the impact into fireworks by the way. It's nothing but broken face. Luo Chen spread his hands, expressing helplessness. I didn't even try, you fell down. Hee, of course, after all, these are just poor people. The aftermath of the explosion dissipated, and it was no longer Di Lola who appeared in the sky, but another man. He landed on the ground and said, he's a face other than the 10 blades. In Ulquiorra's words, he's just trash, and I'm Grimjow, the number 6 of the 10 blades, remember. Luokan took a step forward and stood in front of Ichigo and Rukia. He could feel that although the broken face in front of him did not reveal too strong Reiatsu, it was indeed the captain or even higher level. You were the first spiritual pressure to scan the city, right? Luo Chen asked. You are really bold, don't you know that human realm is not easy to mess with? Oh, could it be that you mean you? Grimjow laughed. I didn't see any strength in you. Could it be that you are Luo Chen, and the kid at the back is Ichigo Kurosaki? What's wrong with that? Ichigo shouted, looking at both Delora just now and the current Grimjow with a pale mask on his face. He was almost the same person as himself and a masked army. Same. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 1158. It really gave me luck. In the eyes of Aizen-sama, one of you is too powerful to deal with, and the other is a great threat with infinite potential. Wouldn't it be beautiful for me to solve both in one breath? Then you can come and try. Luo Chen waved his hand and drew out his Zanpakuto. Koei, please protect Ichigo and Rukia. Mr. Luokan, we are not swaddling babies, at least let us fight, shall we? Luokan shook his head and said, I haven't stopped you in normal battles, but this battle is obviously not of the same level. After speaking, Luo Chen slowly walked into Grimjow. In fact, in the second half of his sentence, the important point is that I still want points. But once said, Luo Chen G22 his stalwart image will definitely collapse, although Ichigo and the others don't know what the points are. Oh, are you here? Well, I'll take care of you, and then go and take out Ichigo Kurosaki, the same thing. Grimjow didn't move, both of them were watching. Then I'll come first. Luo Chen slashed flatly with one move, and the Zanpakuto was about to touch Grimjow's body, but Grimjow remained motionless, but even if the opponent had any tricks now, Luo Chen could only chop down now. Boom. It was a heavy smothering sound, not a penetrating nor a hitting sound. I saw that Luo Chen's knife was actually blocked by air. No, it's not air, but a protective shield formed by Reiatsu. Has it reached this level? As expected of a broken face. Reiatsu is very important as a manifestation of the strength of a god of death or a virtual reality. In Luokan's cognition, it is similar to coercion, but it is much more difficult to defend against spiritual pressure. You're also quite capable, I can't find your flaws. Grimjow didn't intend to hold back any longer, let's get started. Buzz. With the sound of breaking wind, Grimjow disappeared and appeared behind Luokan almost at the same time. Is it a technique similar to Shunpo? Me too. Luo Chen appeared behind Grimjow in a flash, but Grimjow refused to accept it, and appeared behind Luo Chen again. The two of them just started to gallop between the cities. How about it? Do you feel it? How far my compatriots have pushed your death gods? Luo Chen glanced at the past, and saw that whether it was Yizhao, Gongjin, Tushiro, and Renji, they were all in a hard fight and were at a disadvantage. So that's what happened. If you said it earlier, you really underestimated our strength. Luo Chen smiled and took out an earphone from his arms. What? Grimjow didn't understand what Luo Chen was doing. Connecting to the Soul Society. Now is the moment of life and death for the captains. Quickly lift all restrictions, or else the shady plan will succeed. The other party must be here, and immediately acted. After a while, there was a reply. Okay, all the restrictions on the captain and vice captain have been lifted. Luokan put the headphones back and shouted, Ranju, Tushiro, Renji. The restrictions are lifted. Let's fight. The sound spreads to the entire city with the Reiatsu radiation of the falling dust. This approach brings all the fighting gods of death a chance to win. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 1159. The gods of death also felt the difference in their bodies. All parts of their bodies showed various emblems, which were a kind of emblem that limited their strength, and was specially used for the captain and the god of death, on the vice-captain. What is that? The broken faces asked vigilantly. They could clearly feel that the breath of the god of death in front of them was completely different. Good job, Luokan, Matsumoto Ranju laughed. Don't you know what this is? Toshiro said, our captain and vice-captain, the coat of arms that will be triggered after coming to the human world is a limiter used to prevent our output from being too strong. So what? How much can your strength increase? It's not a big problem. Renji called out the baboon king Shiwaimaru, and the breath was completely different from before, and the length was several times that of the previous one. Our captain and vice-captain will use this coat of arms in the human world to control their strength to 20% of the original. And once the restrictions are lifted, our strength will soar to 5 times the original. 5 times. The broken faces looked at their teammates in panic. Just now, they were still able to fight back and forth with the Grim Reaper and had the upper hand, but after the 5-fold increase, wouldn't they only be tortured? Sure enough, after Toshiro and the others recovered their strength, these broken faces were already doomed to fail. They couldn't even make it through several rounds, and they were defeated one after another. Damn, Grimjow couldn't help scolding when he saw this scene. Miscalculation. Luokan said, then let me get serious too. Grimjow deeply felt that something was wrong. He knew that if Luo Chen was to show his strength, although he had confidence in his strength, he still didn't know what to do at that time, so he made the first move. Look! Grimjow burst out with all his speed and strength, attacking Luo Chen, but every time he was blocked by Luo Chen's Zanpakuto. However, Luokan will also be repelled, leaving a deep trench on the ground, which is the trace of Luokan's resistance. But Grimjow did not stop his attack lightly. His attack is also getting faster and faster, each punch is stronger than each punch. The fist and Zanpakuto collided, and there were bursts of sword strikes. This is my final blow. Take it. Grimjow's white mask even grinned, revealing his madness. Boom. Grimjow's fist hit Luo Chen's Zanpaku stab wound heavily, and Luo Chen flew out, leaving a mark on the road under his feet. Luo Chen planted the Zanpakuto on the ground and stopped. A puff of smoke rose from the battlefield. Grimjow stood there, and Luo Chen patted the dirt on his body. Diaresis, that's not bad. You can actually make me bruise within the range of my spiritual pressure. Your attack is still very powerful. Luokan praised, but these words, Jiao, were in Grimjow's ears. It sounded like mocking him. Hee, as expected of the captain level, the strength I exerted in the human world where the spiritual energy is thin can only barely hurt you. But I will use the spiritual energy I have stored myself next. What are you doing? A voice came from behind Grimjow, and there was an empty space behind Grimjow, revealing a figure inside. Ellipsis. Chapter 1160. East Immortal. He was one of the captains who rebelled with Aizen at that time, Tosin. Luokan didn't expect to see them Lulu's face so quickly. I thought you were already hiding in shame. Luokan, I'm not here to talk to you today. I'm here to call you back on behalf of Aizen-sama, Grimjow. Me? What's wrong with me? What are you doing in the human world with a few broken faces without authorization? Don't pretend to be a good name, but also to clear obstacles for Aizen-sama. I think you just want to come here to satisfy your desire to fight, right? Grimjow was speechless, so he could only bear it silently, but he looked at Dong Xian with a hint of anger and hatred in his eyes. Go back with me. The specific punishment will be decided after returning to the virtual circle. Fallen dust, goodbye. After speaking, the two figures disappeared in the crack of space, and the Reiatsu disappeared along with the other broken faces. This time, the crisis in the human world has been resolved. But through today's battle, some people began to wake up. Early the next morning, Luokan learned the news, whether it was Ishida Yulong, Chato, Orihime or even Rukia, all of them planned to conduct special training, hoping that their strength would be able to stand on their own in the next face-breaking operation. Why are you training all the time, and no one is looking for me? Luo Chen scratched his head. He felt that his own was also quite suitable for being a teacher. Luoken, I also think it's impossible to continue like this, so I also want special training. Ichigo said solemnly, his fiery eyes seeing Luoken very excited. So what do you want? Luo Chen laughed. That's right, I'm going to find Hirako Mako and the others, and control the emptiness in my body. Ichigo was straightforward and caught Yu-chan off guard. I thought I was going to ask me to help. Ichigo said, Hirako said that they only welcome the same kind. Although I don't think I am their kind, it is better for me to go by myself. See you later. Watching Ichigo walk away, Luo Chen has long been determined to learn about blurring, so now it's better to find something to do. Although the pursuit of ordinary daily life is the goal of falling dust, but occasionally a little wave is not a bad idea. Kawaii, come, hide it in my clothes, don't let them find out. I didn't expect last night you really gave me a big surprise. Yesterday, Ninetails devoured a part of D'Aurora. It was a simple matter to devour the void, but D'Aurora is a bit of a broken face no matter what, although the ranking is a little lower. So that part of his Ninetails has not been digested yet. Use the Ninetails to increase the virtual spiritual pressure emanating from my body, and then make a white mask, and you're done. Luoken hid the mask and Ninetails in his arms, and went with Ichigo. Luoken, why are you here too? Why, you are just like me, but I think you are a serious god of death. Ichigo asked suspiciously after seeing it. Close your eyes, and feel my spiritual pressure carefully. Taking this opportunity, Luo Chen brought the mask to his face. Wow, scare me, this mask. The empty breath on your body. Sure enough, we two are brothers in need. Luo Chen breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that he had hidden it. Then let's go now. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 1161. Luoken and Ichigo went to the location where Hirako Mako told Ichigo, and the temporary stronghold of their masked army was there. The more they walked, the fewer people came. Seeing that they were about to reach the suburbs, Ichigo and Luoken came to a place that looked like an abandoned factory, which was already inaccessible. Is it here? I don't think they called you here to bring you in. At night, it might be very gloomy here. Luo Chen said. Jue wanted to get out, but Luoken stopped him. Shish, don't reveal the stuffing, I'll give you something to eat after you go back. Just because of this, it stopped. Luoken hurriedly chased Ichigo away, and the two came to an iron-paneled room that looked like a warehouse. It seemed that it was covered with rust, and no one had used it for a long time. Squeak. The door opened, and it was a little dark inside, but the god of death had to fight against the virtual no matter the night or day. This darkness, it took a while to get used to, and the door was closed heavily behind. At the same time, Luoken noticed the appearance of several powerful spiritual pressures. They stood in the shadows, and everyone turned their heads to stare at Ichigo and Luoken, giving people a lot of pressure. XXX. Hirako Mako stood in the middle, saw Ichigo and said, You're finally here, but it's worth the emotional speech I gave you so many times, come on, join us. But when his eyes drifted to Luo Chen, he frowned, didn't I tell you that you can't bring others? Besides, he's a god of death. Ichigo hurriedly came out to smooth things out. Actually, Luo Chen is the same as me. He can be blurred. Why didn't I find it before? You can feel it. Then Ichigo changed the conversation. I'm not here to be your partner, but to use you. Don't get me wrong, I just want to learn how to control the blur. Then I want to see if the two of you have the capital, and we are not open to anyone here. Fei Shili stood up. I want to test your abilities. The two sides were ready immediately, and Fei Shili first picked Luo Chen to fight. She was obviously more interested in Luo Chen. I can tell you that my avatar is very strong. You have to use avatar to make it easier for me to win. Hajiri took out the Zanpakuto, and his aura became different from before. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot seeking flowers katakana middle dot 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 katakana middle dot. Why did you become blurry as soon as you came up? Luo Chen was taken aback, but he didn't expect Fei Shili to go straight to the two, and Fei Shili said, Pingzi told me that you are a captain level strength, then I should take it as well. Only with the corresponding strength. If it is Kurosaki Ichigo, I will let him play with him without blurring. Luoken sighed and said, okay, let's get started. 0. The 9 tails in Luoken's hands emitted a crimson flame, and the flames covered his whole body. This was the beginning of the 9 tails. Then, taking advantage of this effort, the pale mask in Luoken's arms covered his face, making of the virtual appearances perfect. It is the first time that the masked army has such a simple and unpretentious virtual mask. It looks so real that it looks like a fake, which makes people puzzled, but the strength has indeed improved. People have no doubts. Fei Shili rushed up first, and the 9 tails in Luo Chen's hands spun rapidly, forming a barrier of flames in front of him, filling the entire space. That spiritual power was indeed possessed by a captain level. 100 million. Chapter 1162. Everyone in the masked army began to look at Luo Chen, because a captain-level combat power could not be ignored no matter what. Hey, look at the move. The Zanpakudo in He Shili's hand was torn apart from the barrier of flames, completely unaffected, and Luoken calmly resisted with the Zanpakudo. How fast is the total in Fei Shili? How fast is Luo Chen's blocking speed? And the feeling to the people around is only one of 4 or 3 zeros. Unfathomable. If Luo Chen also used all his fighting power, it would be fine, but this is obviously the control behavior of Shueba. Luoken is just as much strength as he wants to use to deal with Fei Shili, the safety is not false. Then I'm going to show my real strength. Fei Shili was a little annoyed by Luo Chen's manipulation, feeling that he had actually lost the battle. Fei Shili will take the hole with the mask on her face. Her face was expressionless, her pupils completely turned black, and the Reiatsu rose again by an order of magnitude. Luoken is no longer playing tricks. At present, Fei Shili has already exerted the power of Kuchiki Byakuya or Karya who had fought with Luoken. Luoken knew that the masked army in front of him was not just an ordinary death god, at least at the level of captain or vice captain. Ding, ding, ding. The sound of Zanpakudo's blows resounded throughout the warehouse. If it weren't for the fact that there was a layer of barrier around it, such power would have already attracted the attention of all parties, especially Urahara and Kurosaki Isshin. Boom! Luoken and Fei Shili's spiritual pressure collided, and both flew out backwards. Fei Shili retreated further, and blood oozes from the corners of his mouth. Hey, I said, it's all right now, there's no point in going on like this. Unless it's a decision of life and death, so why are you testing me? Luo Chen shouted. Fei Shili stopped and said, don't think about running away. In the future, we have a chance to have a fight to decide the outcome. However, Luo Chen had no choice but to agree casually, so that Fei Shili's attention shifted to Yihu. Okay, boy, it's your turn, I can let out my anger now. Ichigo said disdainfully, that's not necessarily true. The battle between the two began, and Hajiri didn't use the avatar at first, and the two sides fought with the Zanpakudo. Gradually, Yihu couldn't hold it anymore, and the emptiness in his body was still violent. Change it to me, I can make your strength tenfold and tenfold. Give me your body. While Luoken was suppressing his blur, he was fighting with Fei Shili. The aura of the two of them became stronger and stronger, but Fei Shili was very dissatisfied. Kurosaki Ichigo, are you afraid? Are you afraid that you will kill me if you lose your mind and lose your mind after exerting your own strength? You look down on yourself too much. Hishiri's attack became more and more violent, and 4.5 finally cracked Ichigo's Zanpakudo. Zanpakudo is closely related to a person's spiritual power and soul, so you can know how far Ichigo has fallen. Click. Ichigo's Zanpakudo finally broke a gap under the slash of Hajiri, and Ichigo lost his consciousness at the same time. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 1163. Ha ha ha, I wish I had done this earlier, Ichigo. At the same time that Ichigo lost consciousness, the blur eroded his spirit and occupied his body. A mask appeared on Ichigo's face, covering half of his face. The face under the mask was more arrogant, sinister and unscrupulous than usual, with a terrifying smile. What? Facially thought that the victory was in his hands, but Ichigo unexpectedly came with a wave of extreme counterattacks. Huh. Ichigo rushed forward, even put up his Zanpakuto for 22, and directly fought in close quarters, caught facially by surprise, and saw Ichigo's face like a demon Rakshasa. I was so scared that I couldn't resist for a while. Hishiri let Ichigo grab his neck and lock it to the wall. Ichigo's arm exerted extraordinary strength, and Hishiri couldn't resist. Luo Chen's eyes are fast and his hands are fast, and at the same time, he stepped forward, grabbed Ichigo's wrist, and began to instill spiritual energy. Let go of me, Luo Chen, do you also want to die? He said harshly. Luo Chen didn't say anything, he didn't have much affection for this guy in Ichigo. Click. Luo Chen directly broke Ichigo's arm, making a crisp sound of bones. Ichigo was in pain, and let go of Fei Shili, and the people in the masked army also reflected at this moment, surrounded by Fei Shi. Before entering, separate the two. Before Ichigo could react, Luoken smashed Ichigo's mask completely, and the blurred reaction receded immediately, but in an instant, he recovered as before, but Ichigo also fell into a coma. Fisher, are you alright? Fei Shili was so shocked that she couldn't speak. She felt that she had really walked through the gate of hell just now. Although she was the god of death, hell and nothingness were still scary places. What's the matter with that kid? Luoken was slowly awakening Ichigo and said, this is his incarnation. Don't you know how dangerous it is? Even the captain may not be able to beat this kid. However, that's fine, Hirako Mako said, Ichigo has the strength to help him, and we need a strong person like him to join us. Several hours have passed, and Ichigo has now been officially put into training, but he has indeed been asked to run on a treadmill. This has been the case for several hours. Luoken is already tired of it, so he will go back first. Chato is training, Ishida Yulong is training, and Ichigo is also training. It seems that I have to train as well. Although I was at the captain level before, I still need some combat experience in his memory. If you practice again, then I will take advantage of this time to practice. Luoken planned to go to Tushiro first. After all, Tushiro was the only captain who came to the human world, and now he should also make arrangements with him for the next step. Arriving at the door of Oriji's house, Luoken felt an unusual spiritual pressure emanating from it. Oriji, are you there? He stuck out Matsumoto Ranju's head from the window and said, oh, isn't this Mr. Luoken? Captain Tushiro is also here, come up directly. Orihime probably won't finish school for a while. Luoken jumped in from the window and couldn't help but be startled by the sight in front of him. It turned out that Tushiro had already done some renovations to Orihime's house. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 1164. Now this place is equivalent to a small room that integrates a conference room, a battle center and even a technical research bureau. Although the sparrow is small, it has all the internal organs. How did you do this? Orihime won't say anything. Besides, Tushiro, your movements are so fast, it's only been less than 24 hours. Luoken looked at the big screen in front of him. Although snowflakes were flickering, the signal was almost debugged, and Tushiro was very busy. At this moment, he directly entered the room. Luoken, you are here too. Luoken greeted him and said to Dongshilang, connect with the captain, I feel like he should have found something. The signal was not good in the morning, so he called, but the noise was too loud and he couldn't connect. Just hung up his phone. There were beads of sweat on Dong Shilang's face. He didn't expect Luo Chen to be so bold, but he also had this intention, and the image gradually appeared on the monitor. Chi-chi. The monitor sounded, and Captain Yamamoto's figure appeared directly on the screen, looking at the three with a solemn expression. Luokan, Tushiro, Ranju, and Miss Orihime, all of you are here. Next, I'm going to tell you something very important, and that is the real purpose of Aizen. We've already found out Tilda. Then I'll prepare snacks and tea for you. I'll go out first. Orihime was about to walk out of the room, but Captain Yamamoto stopped her. No, Orihime, it's better for you to stay here too. After all, this is a matter of the human world. After speaking, Yamamoto returned to the topic again. Since Aizen's betrayal, we have been investigating anything related to Aizen, trying to catch his tail, and this time we really let us find it. Aizen's real purpose is Wang Jian. Captain Yamamoto's words made Tushiro feel bad. What is Wang Jian? Orihime asked. Luokan remembered that there were still some memories of this thing in his memory, but he was not very clear. Dong Shilang said, the Soul Realm also has a royal family. The king is called the Spirit King, which is the symbol and absolute of the Soul Realm, but the royal family does not exist in the Soul Realm, but in a space. To enter, you must use the King Key. Yamamoto added, it can be seen that Aizen wants to make Wang Jian, and the method is very straightforward. Luokan searched for a few words from his memory. The method is 100,000 souls plus a piece of heavy spiritual land that is several miles in diameter. Diaresis is his ultimate goal to kill the king. But if it's about the land of the soul, Tushiro thought. Yamamoto said the reality, it's only the city where you are, or rather the city where you are. Orihime's eyes widened, expressing inconceivable. Not only she, but everyone present felt in their hearts that this coincidence was simply fate. That is to say, if Aizen wants to make Wang Jian, and then enter the royal family's space to kill the Spirit King, he must kill tens of thousands of people in this city. Luo Chen did not expect that there would be such an evil plan. Then is there a way to stop him? Orihime said desperately. Luokan comforted. We will. Even if there is no way, we will organize Aizen. This is the god of death, and the 13th team of the Guardian. Right, Captain. Ellipsis. Chapter 1165. Luokan, I'm fine, thank you, I believe in you, and I believe in Ichigo. Orihi stopped her eyes that wanted to cry. She understood that Orihime was now in front of the strongest people in the entire Soul Society. How can you not be optimistic? Yamamoto looked at Orihime and said, don't worry, it is also our responsibility to deal with Aizen. Besides, it is very unforgivable to cause chaos in the human world and then deal with the Spirit King. Luokan said, anyway, I don't have anything to do when I'm idle. I'll inform Ichigo, Ishida, and Chato in a while. Yamamoto nodded and said, well, although Aizen wants to get Wang Jian, he won't act rashly until he has enough strength to fight the Soul Society. He needs Bengyu to create a new face. How long do we have to prepare now? Luokan asked. Bengyu was originally in a sealed state. Although it was taken out, it still needs to wake up a little bit. This is a blessing in misfortune. It will probably take 4 or 5 months. Yamamoto gave up a position, and the person standing behind showed come in shape. Young Sen Dao. Luo Chen knew the god of death in front of him. He had been in contact with her for a while at the beginning. It was when Aizen was feigning death, and he also fought Dongshilang because of this incident. The battle against the young Sen Dao was not small. Tushiro, are you all right? Hinamori Dao asked in a low voice. She felt a sense of guilt for Tushiro, so she didn't dare to look him in the eye. The two greeted each other, but now it is actually very embarrassing. After all, even if they were childhood sweethearts, they used to have a very unpleasant fight because of a misunderstanding. Toshiro, and Mr. Luokan and Miss Ranju, I beg you. There was a bit of crying in Hina Sentao's tone. The three of them were full of energy and wanted to know what request Hina Morita had. You are trying to stop Captain Aizen. If you stop him, if you don't, I won't give him to. Hinamori raised her head, the emotions in her eyes were complicated. I beg you, Captain Aizen is definitely not that kind of person. I can assure you, please save him. He must have been deceived by that guy Ichimaru-jin or someone else. Before Hinata could finish speaking, Yamamoto put his hand in front of her, and Hinata quickly fainted. Hey, this child, it seems that he hasn't been able to accept this fact. Everyone's mood was not very good. After all, no one thought that Aizen was the one who betrayed and took Ichimaru-jin and Toxin with him. That's it, Kyuubi, let's go. Luokan planned to go to the Urahara store first, and Orihime said, Luokan, wait for me, I ask you to take me to see Ichigo. The two soon came to the Urahara store. They knew that Renji and Chato were training at this place, and Urahara took them to the underground training ground. Sure enough, Chato was having a one-on-one with Renji, and Renji had already used the Baboon King Shui pill to attack, and he had nothing to do with Chato. What's the matter, Chadu Taihu, is this your consciousness? Didn't you tell me that you wanted to catch up with Ichigo and not become a burden? Renji pulled Chadu, who had been injured and fell to the ground, up. Said harshly. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 1166. You fell after just a few attacks just now. How can you improve your strength like this? Luokan, where is that kid Ichigo now? Renji can understand Chadu's wish to become stronger for the sake of his comrades, but he also hates Tai. Not steel. Chadu looked at Luokan and Orihime who came, but did not see Ichigo. Luokan said, Ichigo has already gone to special training. It's the group of people from the masked army who are teaching him. XXX. Masquerade Army. It's interesting, Ichigo can really do some strange things. Urahara laughed. From the time he helped Ichigo to train, he felt that Ichigo's brain circuit was very strange. Mr. Urahara, Mr. Yaiki, Luokan, I also want to become stronger, please teach me. Orihime bowed to the three of them. She was very anxious now because everyone was working hard. Luokan helped her up and said, you just like to be brave, Orihime, whether it's for your partner or not, but in the eyes of your partner, you are also very important. Luokan. Orihime knew that most of her affairs were exposed. Luo Chen said earnestly, how long have you been hiding it? One or several of your Dunshin Liu who are gone. Orihime showed a guilty look. It's all my fault, if only I could be stronger, so I want to become stronger and fight. Luokan looked at Orihime's firm eyes and said, you don't have to worry, go see Ichigo with me, there is probably someone there who can repair your shield and 6 flowers. Really? Orihime caught a glimmer of hope in the disappointment just now, but she was worried that Luo Chen was lying to her. You're not comforting me, are you? You'll know when you go. Knowing that Orihime was dubious, Luokan also waited for Orihime to leave the Urahara store and walked towards the stronghold of the masked army. Luokan, why are you getting more and more remote? This is already a suburb, isn't it? Is Ichigo here? That's it. You can feel the Reiatsu here carefully, is there a familiar feeling? Luo Chen felt that it would be better for Orihime to experience it herself. After all, seeing is believing. When Orihime heard this, she closed her eyes. Well, I'll try. Soon, the barrier of the masked army actually resonated with Orihime's spiritual pressure, and the two unrelated spiritual power entities showed such resonance. Luokan guided. Now try to open a gap and go in. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot seeking flowers katakana middle dot 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 katakana middle dot. Orihime easily opened a gap in the barrier, and Luokan quickly flashed in with Orihime. The strength of this barrier is so strong that Luokan must use brute force to open it. But at the same time, the masked army inside the barrier noticed something abnormal. What's going on? Why do you feel a spiritual pressure? Bozan, could someone come in? 0. The man named Bozan was a wealthy middle-aged uncle. Even if he opened the barrier, he was also curious that someone could softly pass through his barrier. Just thinking about it, Luo Chen brought Orihime to everyone's training ground, while Ichigo was fighting on the side. What is this place? Orihime saw Ichigo fighting a girl. Yo, Luokan, you're here again. Why do you bring one person at a time? Do you think we have a free gym here? Hirako said angrily. Ah, don't say that. This time I really have something to ask for. I'll take Ichigo as a guarantee, and the interests are the same. You shouldn't refuse, right? 100 million. Chapter 1167. Actually, as soon as this girl came in, I noticed something abnormal. Please give me more advice. Bozan sat down, and the whole ground shook. Hello, please give me more advice. Orihime was stunned by the huge mountain-like person in front of her. The pressure was even stronger than Shu. Bozan, do you really want to do this? Bozan replied with a smile. After all, it's a person with similar strength to me, 430, as my interest dictates. Little girl, I can see that some aspects of your spiritual power are somewhat incomplete, so let me help you repair it. Hey, can you? Thank you. It's just that after a while, Orihime's shield and Shun Liuhua returned to normal. Orihime cried out happily, thank you very much. Luokan is also, thank you, my Dunshin Liuhua is back. Luokan nodded and said, Ichigo, Aizen's purpose has been found out. Ichigo, who was resting, immediately rushed up when he heard the news. He knew that his strength was not yet able to be on his own, and he had to grow before the decisive battle. What is the purpose, and when will he implement the plan? Luokan explained the conversation between himself and Captain Yamamoto one by one, and Ichigo couldn't return to his senses for a long time. Whether it was the land of heavy spirits or the king of spirits, Ichigo was deeply aware of his powerlessness. That's it, the next few months will be enough for me. Luokan left the location of the masked army, and there were still a few months left before Bengyu's awakening. Luokan felt that if he wanted to be able to completely suppress Aizen, his solution and blurring were essential. Then let's have a trial for several months. Luo Chen made up his mind. Although it is a trial, it is actually to see a phantom kill another to accumulate points. As long as you can live, I don't believe it, mosquito. No matter how small the legs are, they are still pieces of meat. For the next month, Luokan wandered around everywhere, found Shu and went to earn points. By the time the god of death in charge of that area arrived, Shu had already disappeared. On this day, Tushiro, Ranju, Gongjin, and Yijao have regular gatherings in the park. Why haven't there been any false movements recently? It's so peaceful, wouldn't it be the peace before the storm? We should also improve our strength. Tushiro sighed. Of course, that's because I got rid of the emptiness. Luo Chen showed his figure from behind the bench. It turns out that those gods of death were talking about you. Go everywhere to fight in the areas in charge of other gods of death. Tushiro was helpless, not knowing what the wind was blowing from the dust. Of course there is a reason for this, but I won't go into details. Luokan said mysteriously. At this moment, Matsumoto Ranju exclaimed, it's all over, Captain, I'll go first, I'm going to go shopping in the nearby commercial street. It's not a patrol. Did you say shopping just now? But Matsumoto Rankiku had long since gone. Soon, the time came to evening, and there was no empty figure all day. When Luokan was feeling like he was doing nothing, there was a faint spiritual pressure in the distance, and there was a faint sound of flute, and Luokan's spirit immediately disappeared. Vertex is mentioned. There's something wrong with this breath. Could it be that it's not empty, but broken? But no matter who it is, Luo Chen is going to be killed in the end. After all, there are more points than the false points given, so you can earn as much as you can. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 1168. By the time Luokan arrived, Matsumoto Ranju had already arrived. She was holding a little boy, dodging the attack of Shu. It's just that Shu wears a white mask, that is to say, this is indeed a broken face, right? Luokan rushed up. Ranju, stand back, I'll kill him. That broken face is obviously not wise, only a few words. Facing such a half-finished broken face, Luo Chen doesn't need to work hard at all. But the little boy didn't know what to do, and shouted loudly, "Let me beat him. Uncle, aunt, can you two let me go?" Luo Chen's spiritual pressure spread out, and he shook his head. He knew that the boy in front of him was just an ordinary person with a little spiritual power. He was neither a god of death nor a Quincy. How could he rush up like this? Not looking for death. That broken face was more like a beast, with the entire mask covering its entire body, and even the tail had the end part of the mask. It was full of attack power. Taking advantage of Luo Chen's distraction, he rushed towards Luo Chen. Luoken hurriedly used his knife to resist, but who would have thought that this guy would bite Luoken's zanpakuto in one bite, and would not let go. "Hey, trouble, Nine Tails." Luo Chen couldn't hold back the knife for a while, so he called out the Nine Tails, and the Nine Tails jumped into the air, spit out several tailed beast jade from his mouth, and smashed the broken face all over the ground to disperse the spiritual power. Painful in pain, he opened his mouth and roared, "Bastard! Die!" He took off into the air and wanted to knock down Luoken, but Luoken didn't give it a chance to land again. Cut. The fiery red blade stretched out, and the spiritual child was full of hair. He slashed the broken face and the mask in half. The broken face disappeared, and the spiritual pressure no longer had any ripples. Ding! Defeat a broken face, and the points have been credited. I have been reminded how many times I died, but the points obtained this time are 10 times as many as before. Luo Chen smiled with satisfaction. At this time, Toshiro and the others also arrived. Is it really a broken face? Should it have something to do with Aizen? Even if it doesn't matter, it still needs to be reported. Then how to deal with this child? Luo Chen asked. Since he saw that the god of death was still empty, the subsequent treatment had to be discussed. Matsumoto Ranju said, "I still have something to ask him, can I wait?" Everyone took the little boy back to the house, but the little boy was not afraid, but he looked like a dead pig not afraid of boiling water, and he didn't say a word despite how much people around him threatened him. "Why did you want to fight that virtual?" "I have no idea." When the broken face appeared, did you have a channel flute? Toshiro asked. What flute? I don't know. Since they didn't know what to do after asking 3 questions, everyone didn't know what to do. Although Luo Chen proposed to beat him up to treat his stinky temper, Matsumoto Ranju still advocated that the child be left alone. But just when everyone was asleep, Luoken felt that someone was groping for something on him, and Luoken didn't move. Squeak! The sound of the door opening and closing came, and Luo Chen noticed that the little boy had escaped. Furthermore, this guy didn't learn well, he knew he should have been beaten. Luo Chen touched the empty waist, his zanpakuto was stolen. Ellipsis. Chapter 1169. When the little boy stole Luoken's zanpakuto, Luoken had already noticed it, but everything requires a piece of evidence. Luoken intends to catch the opportunity to beat the child up when he has all the stolen goods. Reason. But I didn't expect this little bastard to run away with his zanpakuto. He moved so quickly that it felt like he had planned it long ago, so he had to guard against it. Luoken quickly chased after him, jumping from the roof, and the 9 tails were thrown far away. Luoken knew that if he let the little boy run out like this, he might immediately become empty food. Unexpectedly, Raya, who was chasing after the little boy, turned around 7 or 8 times in the streets and alleys before seeing the figure. It seemed that he was doing everything he could to escape possible pursuit. Luo Chen didn't speak, but jumped directly in front of him, bumped it, and fell to the ground. Luo Chen took his zanpakuto back with one hand. "Uncle, you're out. I just wanted to come out to get some air tilde." The little boy replied stutteringly. He knew that something was out of the way. Luoken sighed. He could see that there was a trace of stubbornness and remorse in the little boy's eyes. It was estimated that something had really happened, otherwise he would not have become a spiritual body. "I'm not an uncle, I'm Luoken, you can trust me, boy." Luoken said indifferently. "I'm not called a kid either, I'm Shota, you can remember it." Shota shouted in a hurry, I'm sorry, uncle. Mr. Luokan, I took your knife out just to kill those people myself. It's just something. Luokan tugged at his ears and taught, but this is also my thing. Besides, we are the gods of death, specializing in beheading Shu. We will help you with your affairs, but you have to say everything you know. Before Shota could answer, there was a melodious flute sound, which might not sound strange in normal times, but it was really frightening that it added a bit of ethereal and weirdness in the middle of the night. And at the place where the flute came, there were also bursts of spiritual pressure, and the spiritual pressure of falling dust spread out, and it was quickly determined that it was breaking the surface again, but, this breath, something is wrong. Luokan picked up Shota and hurried off immediately. It is most dangerous to let Shota stay here alone. It can be said that the safest place is right by Luokan's side. At this moment, Juwei finally arrived and jumped onto Luokan's shoulder. Luokan took off and rushed towards the source of the spiritual pressure. After a while, he crossed the block and only saw a huge body like a bear hovering, and his mouth was straight. Tasting something. Diaresis, this broken face. Something is wrong. Why is it exactly the same as the one I killed in the evening? Luo Chen hurriedly checked the system's points, and the displayed points did not change. Although Luokan was surprised, he couldn't care too much now. It's better to give priority to solving the problem. After all, he can't let him swallow innocent people anymore. Cut. Are you okay? Falling Chen slashed heavily, instantly hitting Bromian, and Bromian shouted, why are you? Damn it. Don't bother me. I'm the god of death, of course I want to kill you. Although I don't know how you were resurrected, come on. Luokan can clearly feel that this broken face has risen to a new stage in strength in just a few hours, and things that could have been resolved quickly have been delayed for several rounds. Ellipsis. Chapter 1170. However, this Bromian's final struggle was in vain. He roared and turned into a spiritual child and drifted away. At this time, the system's forehead sound appeared in Luokan's brain. Ding. Defeat a Bromian and get points. Luokan remembered it clearly this time, and he was indeed killed. Not only did the Reiatsu disappear cleanly, but the system also issued a reminder that it should be over this time. But at this moment, in Luokan's perception, another broken face with the same spiritual pressure appeared, and it was rapidly approaching. After a while, there were more than a dozen broken faces that were exactly the same as the one just now, and the scene was extremely strange for a time. Ha ha ha, god of death, how's it going? Can you still fight like this? It cracked open its big mouth like a cylinder, laughed and mocked. Wow, what is this? Don't come here. Shota threw stones. He was also very scared now, but there was no way to escape. Luokan, what's going on here? Tushiro grabbed Shota's arm and took him away from danger, and Matsumoto Ranju also arrived. Aren't these all broken faces that have already been killed? Why are there so many? The Reiatsu is the same, and the appearance is the same. Matsumoto Ranju exclaimed. This is Dong Shileng, who also received the contact from Gong Qin and Yi Zhao. Captain, we have encountered several unknown broken faces here. All of them look exactly the same. Okay. Strange. XXX. Luokan made a decisive decision. I have a way to kill them all. Anyway, it's okay to kill them. Let's move closer to the park. It is good. Everyone started to fight with the broken faces while moving towards the park. Although there were a lot of these broken faces, luckily none of them were very smart. Roar. Death. Let me eat you. According to Luokan's instructions, everyone will not fight. They will be killed if they can, and if they can't be killed, it's not bad, as long as Luokan can annihilate them in one fell swoop. Come on, it's still a few hundred meters away. Luo Chen could already see each other with Gong Qin and Yi Zhao, and they quickly gathered at the center of the park. Many broken faces surrounded Luokan and the others in the middle. Seeing that they were about to be generals, the broken faces grinned happily. At this moment, Luo Chen shouted, Shunbu. Everyone else rushed to the outside, and Luokan slammed into the sky with force, and created a lot of spiritual pressure reactions, so that the broken faces began to swarm up, wanting to swallow the cake of Luokan. But Luokan has never been a scheming person. Ninetales jumped out. Ninetales, output your play style. As long as you don't destroy this park, the rest is optional. An unprecedented huge-tailed beast jade was brewing in Juwei's mouth. Looking at the bottom, they began to take off and their faces were broken. Luokan was already winning. Launch. The huge-tailed beast jade is like a blockbuster, slowly sinking into the Daobaomian group. Get ready for the shock wave. Boom. The sun that cut through the night sky appeared in the very center of the park, which is the least dangerous explosion site for humans. The flash filled the entire space in an instant, but in an instant, a huge amount of energy generated a huge shock wave, and the volume spread out with all of it. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 1171. Everything was calm, but Luo Chen was happy to talk. Looking at the scale just now, the number of broken faces was not over 100, at least 80 or 90. Sure enough, just when the explosion happened, Luokan was prompted by the system, and kept saying, ding. Defeat a Bromian. Ding. Defeat a Bromian. The sense of achievement is simply indescribable. Luokan watched his points move towards a higher place like a rocket. You must know that it is not a falsehood, but a broken face. 1 is 1,000 points. Soon, Luokan's points were already close to his goal of 100,000 points, and he knew that he would be rewarded in the next few days, and the successful exchange is just around the corner. Toshiro and the others hid, and after the impact faded, they looked at the place. The park had lost its original appearance. This is really huge destructive power. Luokan has lifted the restriction. Asked the corner dumbly. He had only seen such a powerful destructive power in Kenpachi Zaraki. I looked at it as if it was an attack by a small beast following him. Matsumoto Ranju reminded, although she didn't believe it, the kind of creature who looked at Chi Ali as harmless to humans and animals, was even better than the captain. Is the level of death still stronger? But this time the time has come to an end, but there are still many mysteries about the cause and effect of this incident, such as the sound of the flute and the same broken face. Back at Orahime's house, everyone had already started to contact the technical department of Soul Society, trying to find out what was going on. Well, this thing is really strange, but we can investigate and find out that those Reiatsu really belong to the same broken face. The person from the Technical Research Bureau took out the analysis report. You can know that although this broken face is out of specification, but there are still weaknesses in theory. What is it? Luo Chen spread out his hands, expressing his sincere attention. After all, with such a powerful output from the Nine Tails, it was truly outrageous at the cosmic level that this broken face was not successfully buried in the soul. These broken faces are definitely just clones. It is estimated that there are already more main bodies, waiting for opportunities in secret, so if you want to defeat it, you must find the main body. Luo Chen can't hold back anymore. He can't just sit and wait now. Maybe he can take advantage of this opportunity to gain the ability to blur through this guy's clone. It's not too late. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot seeking flowers katakana middle dot 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 katakana middle dot. Toshiro agreed, and said, Kung-kun, Yizhao, follow me and Luokan to find its body. Ranju is here with Shota. Yes. After assigning the work, everyone set off again. Luokan left Toshiro and the others, and planned to act alone. Now is a good time to accumulate points. Acting alone can bring all the broken faces into the bag. After all, Luokan was also a captain-level figure, so there would be no danger no matter what. The three of them went with him, searching for an unusual Reiatsu in each of them. Cut. Luokan will be beheading the broken face all the time, and he will soon rush to the next place, but now that broken face has also become smarter, and he will not show up easily. At this moment, Luo Chen felt a surge of spiritual pressure reappear, and he hurried over, but when he arrived, he only saw a man curled up in place. 100 million. Chapter 1172. Hey, do you have any, see something? Luokan tried to ask. If he could see the broken face, he should also be able to see the god of death. The man was obviously terrified, and said nervously, "It's terrible, what is that? Don't come here." Luokan didn't find out any news from it either, so he shrugged helplessly and said, "Leave this place quickly." After speaking, Luo Sisansanchin turned around and prepared to leave, but at this moment, Jue roared and spat out a tailed beast jade, and Luokan also noticed the abnormality. Instinctively, he dodged, and a huge claw landed on the spot. It was the broken face, and judging from the changes in the Reiatsu just now, this broken face was the man who curled up in a ball just now. Could it be that this broken face can be turned into a human soul? No wonder my Reiatsu didn't make a big discovery. It's cunning. Luo Chen didn't talk nonsense. This was a major discovery. After beheading this broken face, Luo Chen immediately informed everyone to go back and hold a small meeting again, while sharing the information and formulating the following plan in detail. What's wrong? Luokan, it's only been out for an hour, so. This is. Toshiro saw that there was obviously a little girl in the room. Oh, Captain, I really can't beat Shota, so I went with him to find his sister. This little girl is, as you can see, the two of them. Matsumoto Ranju said. Luokan can see that now Shota and this little girl have a chain in front of her chest, which is a very obvious characteristic of a spirit body. Shota told the truth tearfully, "It's all my fault. When the two of us didn't know where we were going, we were walking in confusion when we encountered that broken face. But I left my sister and ran for my own life. I've always blamed myself very much. I wish it was me who was eaten." That's why you want to fight Bromian and avenge your sister. Luokan understood why he was clamoring to fight when he first met. But, Shota said with a smile, "I feel at ease now. I will protect my sister, and this time I won't let her be attacked by those guys with bad faces." The topic returned to the whole, and Luo Chen said that the broken face can be transformed into a human soul. Everyone was shocked, and they also vaguely felt that Shota's sister was somewhat in line with this characteristic. Toshiro stood up and said, "Shota, get out of the way, I'm going to perform a soul burial for her." "What is a soul burial? What will happen to my sister?" Shota asked. "If it succeeds, she will be taken to the soul realm. You can go too, don't worry," Toshiro said, pressing the hilt to her head. But the soul burial was not successful, and all the gods of death here understood what was going on. That is to say, she was manipulated by that broken face. Or she was transformed by the broken face. It's impossible. He's my sister, I know her, and it's impossible to hide the face from me. Shota wanted to try his best to prove his innocence. Luo Chen nodded. She understood that this was indeed a problem, so she said, "Well, we won't hurt her. I'll add a barrier to this room. Let's find the broken-faced body, otherwise the action can't be carried out." Luokan was right, but Shota had to give in. Luokan created a space barrier and started the next step. Chapter 1173. Then what should we do next? Matsumoto Ranju looked at the two children who were not very mentally ill and said to Luokan and the others, "I think it is possible to connect with the Technical Research Bureau and let them perform soul detection on her, maybe they will know something," Luo Chen suggested. Facing this situation, Luo Chen was also very helpless. "I never thought that this broken face could actually be cloned and hide his breath. This is as tricky as any 10 blades." Soon, Luokan contacted the personnel of the Technical Research Bureau and checked Shota's sister, but unfortunately, nothing abnormal was found. If more accurate data is needed, it will take longer, and it should be able to judge. The staff of the Technical Research Bureau wiped the sweat on their heads and said nervously. Luokan nodded and said, "Then we can't be idle either. We should take advantage of this time to find the broken-faced body. Now is not the time to relax." Everyone agreed that the more the broken face's spiritual power devoured the land, the more it would evolve, and the higher the spiritual wisdom would be, and it would become more and more difficult to deal with after that. It is good. Soon, there were only Shota and his sister left in the room, but there was nothing to worry about. There was already a barrier defined by Luokan. If there was an emptiness or a broken face to force his way in, Luokan would be able to enter. Receive feedback immediately. Brother, I'm so scared. I want to go find my mother. Shota looked at his little sister who was coquettish to him, but couldn't help but said, "It's okay, Yui, you will get better soon." But Wei couldn't hear it. He was extremely frightened in his heart, so he said, "Brother, I really want to see my mother, help me." Shang was too hard to calm down, so he could only say, "I can't help it, this barrier was set up by Brother Luokan." Wei showed a weak smile, "Do as I say." The two of them pressed their hands from the inside of the barrier to the outside, and the barrier was actually opened. A gentle force spread out, and the spirits that formed the barrier were scattered. And on the other side, Luo Chen had already sensed this for the first time. What's going on? My barrier was broken, and it wasn't due to an attack, so it seems there must be something tricky. Just as Luokan Dasuo was on his way back home, he received a call from Soul Society, and Luokan picked it up while rushing back. "Hello, Lord Luokan, we finally found out. It's very bad." It was a staff member of the Technical Research Bureau, and his voice was full of anxiety. Luokan knew that the most negligent thing was Shota's younger sister. "I'm afraid she couldn't get rid of the relationship this time." "Go on." "Yes, after our repeated comparisons and investigations, we can confirm that the little boy's sister is the Broken Face's soul avatar." Luokan nodded, and now he was in a hurry. "Notify Captain Toshiro and the others about this as well. I'll rush over first." "Yes." Luokan hurried towards Orahime's house, but she realized that it might be too late now, so she changed her strategy. So Luokan's spiritual pressure radiated out, and he sensed the whole city, looking for the spiritual pressure of Shota and his sister. After a while, he found it. Chapter 1174. Dongshalang, Luanju, Gongchen, Yijiao. Can you hear me? Luokan hurriedly made a phone call. "Don't go back, go to the park to gather." There. After getting new information, everyone gathered towards the park. Today's park has become empty due to yesterday's damage. This is a good opportunity. After arriving at the park, the place was unprecedentedly silent, and the surrounding air seemed to be frozen. This was a depressing atmosphere, and a cool breeze began to blow around. At this time, Matsumoto Renki, Toshiro and others had also arrived, and Shota was walking with his sister from a distance, but Reiatsu was slightly different. "Shota, come back quickly, it's dangerous." Matsumoto Ranju rushed up. He wanted to pull Shota back, but the distance was too far, and before everyone could arrive, the accident had already happened. Buzz! The surrounding space trembled, and several broken surfaces began to appear one after another in the vicinity, and the number was increasing. "Brother, don't go, come here Tilda." Although Yui's aura was completely different, Shota was already carried away by the situation in front of her. Nine Tails. Luo Chen let the Nine Tails go ahead to stop them, and the small Nine Tails sprinted past like lightning and intercepted them in front of them. The battle with Bromian started again. Nine Tails grabbed Shota and ran outside the battle center, but Shota yelled to go back. But now everyone is too busy to take care of themselves, not to take care of Shota. Luokan rushed towards the main body, and sure enough, under Luokan's faltering move, the broken face revealed a flaw, and it was no longer hidden, revealing its true body. "It's just been a day since I hadn't seen him, and this Bromian has grown again. It's already a Bromian with a full human form and Zanpakuto, no different from Aizen's subordinates. His stature is not very big, but he is several meters tall, and the Zanpakuto around his waist is of the same size, making it impossible for ordinary people to think of confrontation." Roar! "Death! I'm going to devour you, don't disturb my good deeds." It split its big mouth, and a human-like head emerged from it. Although the virtual feature of the whole body has not been completely abandoned, it is already very similar to a humanoid creature. If it evolves further, it will soon be able to reach the level of captain. If the good thing you said was to devour other people's souls, of course I would come to stop you, not to mention that you are a bad face, my cash cow. Luo Chen roared. Although the latter half of the sentence made Po Mian not know what it meant, but now it's just a matter of fighting, so the two got into a fight. The surrounding broken face clones are also very difficult to deal with, but fortunately, when the dust was fighting with the main body, no other clones were involved. Tushiro and the others were constantly fighting against the clones. Although the Nine Tails were protecting Shota, they were also forced to join the battle. Diaresis, you want to deal with me? It's too early. My power is pouring out continuously. Okay, now, it's all from the power of the soul I devoured. Luo Chen didn't say a word, but just devoted himself to the battle more seriously. Ding, ding, ding. XXX. Although Bromian's Zanpakuto is very large, Luokan's Reiatsu is a lot higher, and it's not that the bigger the Zanpakuto, the stronger it is. The battle between the two gradually intensified, the collision of Reiatsu became more intense, and the broken face gradually fell into the disadvantage. Ellipsis. Chapter 1175. Cut. A mere god of death, you are still thinking of suppressing me. Impossible. Po Mian used the Zanpakuto to deflect Luo Chen's attack and retreated. It can be said that its current strength is indeed not at its peak, because it uses one consciousness to control all the clones at the same time, so he cannot fight Luo Chen wholeheartedly, and the combat effectiveness of the clones has also dropped by a large level. So Po Mian plans to break the boat. He completely reverted his consciousness to his main body and no longer cared about those clones, which caused those clones to either dissipate directly due to the lack of spiritual gathering power, or become a walking corpse with only instinct. Toshiro and the others were much more relaxed, but all the pressure came to Luokan. After completing the broken face of consciousness concentration, the Reiatsu has been upgraded by another level. His stature is small mountain, the thick arm of the big tree is waving the Zanpakuto several meters long, which is full of oppression. The huge body makes it seem to move a little slower, but it is actually an illusion. The powerful body increased its strength and speed. Luokan bent over to avoid a horizontal slash, but the wind pressure whistled, causing the spirits around Luokan to begin to disperse. 2 times, but a little worse. Luo Chen knew that Po Mian had used his true skills, so he stopped hiding his clumsiness. It's a pity that the current points cannot be used for blurring, so let's use the first solution. When Zai Po Mian's next attack came, Luo Chen didn't dodge it, and the corner of Po Mian's mouth rose slightly, thinking, it seems that he knows that his skills are not as good as others, and he is ready to give up his resistance obediently. But in the next instant, before the Zanpakuto approached Luokan's body, the speed at which the Zanpakuto swung suddenly began to decrease suddenly, and in the end it didn't move at all. Whether it was pumping, stabbing, or turning, a sense of powerlessness filled Rumian's whole body. Oh, what's going on? Bromian was taken aback, as if a completely invisible hand was strangling the throat of his destiny. Luokan opened his eyes, the Zanpakuto in his hand stretched out, and a powerful spiritual pressure erupted instantly. Just now, the broken face couldn't get in because the solid spiritual child around Luokan formed a protection. The Zanpakuto, 9 tails, in Luokan's hand has been successfully resolved. The 9 blades shone with dazzling light, and there were mysterious runes on the blade. In the face of such an attack, Bromian couldn't stand it any longer. After the dust was settled, the outcome of this battle was already decided. Zan. Luo Chen kicked Po Mian down from the sky with 1 foot, and then swooped away. The Zanpakuto in his hand cut through all obstacles, and he would cut Po Mian in half in the next second. No, brother Luokan. It seemed that he felt guilty for his sister, which filled Shota's heart with power, and he blocked Luokan in front of him. My sister is still conscious. She is not completely assimilated. Shota was about to cry. He could feel that his sister had not disappeared. But taking advantage of this effort, Bromian quickly slipped away and left behind a lot of clones, Ha ha ha, you can't find me. Shota knew he was wrong, but he didn't think it was really wrong. Luo Chen put the Zanpakuto in front of him and said, I really wanted to teach you a lesson, but who hasn't been young yet? Luokan said, do you know how Shu came from? It was born from the fall of souls who still have nostalgia for this world. Our death gods killed Shu not to kill, but to cleanse their sins. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 1176. This will guide the souls of the dead to the soul realm. Do you want to save your sister? Answer me. Yes, it is. Wait for your words. Then come clean it with me. Luo Chen also had a good impression of this young man. After all, he came here like this, and he also had the same growth experience as Ichigo and others. System, positioning. Don't tell me, after fighting with him for so long just now, you can't be sure of its location. Luo Chen called out to the system. How is that possible? The positioning has been completed. The system replied proudly. Through the system, Luokan felt the aura of the main body of Broken Face. Although all Broken Face clones had the same aura, Luokan's system was able to fully identify individuals, which was much improved compared to the Soul Hunter. Then I'll accept these idle things. Luo Chen had long coveted these points, and he didn't care about the fight with the main body just now. 9 Tails. Luokan called out Zanpakuto's name. Zanpakuto's spiritual energy burst out, and responded, a powerful spiritual pressure burst out instantly like the sun in the spiritual subfield. He slashed with the sword, and the majestic spiritual energy wrapped around the body of the Zanpakuto, almost like a tailed beast jade in the shape of a sword, slashing through the sky. Like a long rainbow sweeping across the sky, the entire space is filled with the massive impact of Luo Chen's spiritual suns, and all the broken-faced clones were swallowed up in an instant, completely wiped out. Ding! Kill Pomian. Get points. Ding! Kill Pomian. Get points. Luokan ignored it, and was not overjoyed. Instead, he quickly retracted the blade. All the spiritual energy actually gathered back and compressed to the tip of the blade, like a black hole. It's there. The knife stabbed out, carrying the energy of the tailed beast jade, and the 9 tails were stunned. I didn't expect Luokan to be able to exert such a strong power of the tailed beast jade. In fact, it was all 9 tails, Zanpakuto's credit. The tip of the knife lightly tapped, and the huge amount of energy gathered penetrated the space and tore it apart. The broken-faced body was also stunned. Toshiro and the others, who were watching the battle below, were also stunned. I found you. Luo Chen raised his foot and kicked the broken face to the ground again. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot seeking flowers katakana middle dot 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 katakana middle dot. In this short period of time, this broken face actually happened again and evolved. Luokan knew that if it was not removed now, there would be endless troubles. Come on, boy, this is the only special case. Even Ichigo I didn't let him do this. Luo Chen took Shota, and the two were holding Zanpakuto, approaching Pomian. Pomian woke up from the coma, it stood up and was about to run away. Toshiro quickly resorted to a solution and froze it firmly with the ground. His legs and feet could no longer move, and the slash was over. The broken face has become 2 halves of the body, turned into a spiritual child and drifted away. Even if it is no longer the clone that solidified the second time also collapsed quickly. Ding! Defeat the broken face. Get points. Complete the task. Get points. 2 voices sounded, and the final value of the points finally exceeded 100,000, and the exchange of the blindness ability could already be carried out. Luokan couldn't wait to open the exchange page. Although it still hurts to spend 100,000 in one go, he still clicked. Ding! Get the ability to blur. 100 million. Chapter 1177. I finally got the blur. Although it didn't take a long time, it's still very fulfilling, but I don't have many points left now. But Luokan is very content. Now that he has obtained the avatar, he will not only have the trump card of the first solution, but the avatar can also become a very powerful hand to play in battle, which is definitely a good thing to turn the tide of the battle. The matter came to an end. Bromian was eliminated by Sasanchi, and Shota was buried in his soul without a will, and went to the soul realm to find his sister, but Luokan and the others still needed to stay in the human realm. As the days passed, the gods of death also took time off from their busy schedules, enjoying campus life and daily life. It was a Saturday. When Toshiro saw Luokan's explosive strength a few days ago, he felt a sense of self-blame in his heart. Even if he is already a captain, there is still a gap in strength between each captain. Let's not talk about Kuimubai. There are many unfathomable captains, like Zyurzakagi Kenpachi. The former Captain Aizen, Ichimaru Jin and others are vivid examples. Originally, Luokan was so valued by Captain Yamamoto. The captains were a little puzzled at first, but when Luokan and Kariya fought, Kuchiki Byakuya understood, and the former after a few days in the battle with the broken face, Toshiro also understood. Dongshilang and Luokan were walking on the road, Dongshilang secretly determined to keep up with Luokan and keep growing. After all, Ichigo and the others were also working hard, and there was definitely still a lot of room for their own improvement. Luokan, how about the proposal to quickly open the restrictions on the captain and vice-captain level? Toshiro, Matsumoto Ranki, Renji and Luokan are all above the vice-captain level. During the last Grimjow invasion incident, they were stunned. A small loss. Indeed, if the next lifting of restrictions cannot be carried out in time, the consequences will be disastrous. This time our 4 captains and vice-captains put forward this proposal, and it is estimated that it will be taken seriously. Next, let's see what Captain Yamamoto has to say. Replied. The 2 of them were patrolling, but they were relatively calm recently. Just as the 2 of them passed a public football field, a football flew over and happened to hit Toshiro's back. Hey, are you okay? Hey, brother Luokan, who is this person? It was Ichigo's younger sister Charlie who came to pick up the ball. Oh, this is Toshiro, my friend. Luokan replied. Hey, I didn't expect brother Luokan to like to play with children too, but it's just right, we are worrying now. Toshiro, are you willing to join us? Hearing that Xiaoli called Dongshilang a child, Luokan hurriedly covered his mouth with his hand, and turned his face away and almost laughed out loud. Dongshilang gritted his teeth when he saw Luokan's appearance, but he just reminded Xiaoli, I'm not a child. What's the matter? Did you encounter any difficulties? Luo Chen controlled his emotions and asked. Xiaoli said sadly, our football field was occupied by people from the middle school, but that was what we decided first, so we planned to play a game to decide who to listen to. But our strength isn't particularly powerful, not to mention that those middle school students have physical advantages over us, so it would be great if Toshiro could help. Luokan said, no problem, Toshiro, Ichigo's sister is my sister, you two should get along well. See you then. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 1178. Seeing Luokan who turned and left, Dongshilang was dragged away by Xiaoli, so he could only shout, the task of patrolling will be handed over to you. In the morning, there was nothing special to pay attention to, and there was no virtual or broken face. At noon, everyone gathered in the small room of Orahime's house for a regular meeting once in a while. School is really interesting. I didn't expect that I would be asked to be the instructor of the Kendo Club in the past few days, and there will be a competition this afternoon. Yi Zhao said. He seemed to be enjoying it. Yi Zhao, you are really a professional. After all, our gods of death are fighting with swords. How can there be any reason to lose in Kendo competition? But I am different. 22 inches Gong Chin sighed. I took a commission to make a cake with Hufu and Hanataro from the Technical Research Bureau. I've never done it before, but it's very meaningful. Matsumoto Ranju said. It seems that you are all integrated into the human world, so am I. I met a little girl, and I always felt that I couldn't leave her alone. Now that the soul is with her, I have time to come back. By the way, what is the captain doing now? When Luo Chen heard this, he smiled wickedly and said, well. Toshiro hurriedly got up and tried to block Luokan's mouth, but he was unsuccessful. Luokan flashed sideways. It's playing football with Ichigo's sister. Oh, as expected of the captain. Everyone exclaimed, but they didn't know if they were sincere. In the afternoon, everyone went their separate ways again, and Luo Chen was still patrolling the city, hoping to find an avatar to test his avatar ability. How is it not false? Wow, it's so peaceful too. Just when Luo Chen shouted, 3 virtual reactions appeared in his spiritual pressure perception at the same time. There are too many people here. But Luo Chen was very excited, and finally had the opportunity to use the blur. Kyue, go to another place to help me hold back those ghosts. I'll be there in a while, don't let other gods of death take the lead. Jue wagged his tail, and quickly jumped out. Luokan first rushed towards the nearest place, getting closer and closer, and upon completion, he could see that the destination turned out to be a small football field, and Toshiro was also present. Xia Li. Behind Dong Shilang, it was Xia Li who fell to the side, and in front of them, it was always a big fuss. Using Shunbu, Luokan came to Xia Li's side and said, "Are you alright? Brother Luokan." Even though Xia Li was usually boyish, but now that she saw Luokan and hurried up, he was actually quite scared in her heart. Toshiro saw that Luokan was coming, and the pressure was reduced. We were originally in the game, but who knows, this guy will come. Dong Shilang, leave it to me, you protect Xia Li. Luo Chen couldn't wait to start the blur. Buzz. A spiritual pressure different from the god of death spreads along Luokan's whole body, and Luokan's whole body is wrapped in a layer of dark power. A pale mask also appeared on Luokan's cheek, and the left half of his eye began to burn with a faint blue spiritual energy. Luokan's spiritual pressure increased by a level, and it was 3 points stronger than when he used Shiji. Chapter 1179. Luokan hadn't fully sensed the power of the power yet, and the Hulk rushed over. Luokan just wanted to keep his hand, but the first time he became emptiness, he didn't grasp the power well, so he directly cut the emptiness into 2 halves. The icy points rose by 1,000 in an instant. Luo Chen didn't feel it well. He stood there blankly, but he didn't expect that his own strength could kill Da Shu in an instant. It seems that you still have to control your own power in the future. At this moment, Nine Tails had already returned to Luokan's shoulders, and immediately after the points increased by another 2,000, Nine Tails wagged his tail happily. It turns out that you have already solved all those emptiness. Luo Chen sighed, and Jue immediately made a gesture. So that's the case, is it Gongqin and Yi Zhao who are fighting against those 2 phantoms? To avoid being preempted, he took the head and ran away. Not bad. Luo Chen smiled with satisfaction. At this time, there was a wave of unresolved, wave after wave, and 3 powerful spiritual pressures descended on the city. Luo Chen and Dong Shilang exchanged glances. Luokan, this time it's a broken face tilde. That's right, it's not too late. I don't know if it's the 10 blades here, but I have to inform everyone as soon as possible. After Luo Chen finished speaking, he walked towards the place where the breath was relatively the most powerful. Because there is no other place, it is the location of the Urahara store. With such a clear goal, there must be a hidden secret. Luokan believes that this time, some information may be unearthed. On the other side, Toshiro immediately summoned Ranju, Gongjin, Yi Zhao and others to make contact with the remaining 2 broken faces. Now Ichigo, Chato, Orihime, and Ishida are all practicing, and they can only rely on them to protect the city, but this time it's not as busy as last time. After all, there are only 2 broken faces this time. Is that you? Toshiro and the others surrounded the 2 Bromian. The aura of these 2 Bromian was indeed strong enough, but it was actually similar to the one he had defeated before. XXX. You guys, aren't you 10 blades? Asked the corner. Why are they all like this? 10 blades and 10 blades. Do you look down on me? What's so powerful about dead people? The human world will be despised from the side, who can stand it? We are not weaker than 10 blades. Open the strongest form directly. The two of them couldn't bear it anymore, and a spiritual pressure rushed over, and in the smoke, they showed their true colors. Although Bromian is a humanoid, he can indeed improve his combat effectiveness by restoring his body. Both of them have turned into Bromian bodies covered in white armor. Diaresis, it seems that we should also lift the restrictions, but it's not long. I don't know if the rapid lifting of the Technical Research Bureau has been implemented, but now it's only the top. Tushiro commanded. Well, Zhao, on the other side, Luokan has already arrived at the Urahara store, where the battle has already begun, and only Renji is fighting. Renji, are you okay? Luokan rushed to the scene and joined the battle. When Renji saw Luokan coming, she responded, Luokan. I'm fine. What about Mr. Urahara and the others? If Luokan didn't think that the face was coming, Urahara would stay in the store honestly and not show his face. Chapter 1180. Oh, Mr. Urahara, he took the tea to buy goods. He just set off this morning, and came in the afternoon. Renji said while warning the other side. Bromian said, it's okay, I can wait, but don't be easily defeated by my Patras before they come back. Patras, are you 10 blades? Luo Chen asked. He didn't feel the same Reiatsu feeling that Ulquiorra and Grimmjow had on the person in front of him. 10 blades. Laugh if so, let me kill Ulquiorra. Patras said with a smile, seeing that each of the 10 blades called Aizen that guy. Sir, I was very upset. Oh, Luo Chen clearly felt that there was a story in the middle. Patras flew down, but his hand held the handle of the knife, so I grabbed Bengu and came to human world with 2 broken faces with the same idea. I heard that someone here can use it, so I came to find him, but he doesn't seem to be there. What are you going to do with Bengu? Renji asked. Patras sneered. Of course I want to use this magical thing to rule the whole world, let alone 10 blades. Aizen is a useless god of death, why does he rule the virtual circle? Useless. Death is not useless. Although you talk about Aizen, I, as death, want to correct your thinking. Renji roared. And Patras also said solemnly, exactly, didn't you also use 10 blades to insult me? Renji, let me do it. Luokan just happened to be in the dark for the first time and it was useless. How could he let it go when he encountered a stronger face this time? But it's nothing to worry about, you go protect Jinta and Xiaoyu. After Renji left, Luokan could finally let go of his hands and feet, broken. A black spiritual force was wrapped around Luokan's body, the entire Zanpakuto also changed color, a mask appeared on his face, Luokan possessed the power of Shuan death. Banman got an axe. Patras saw the mask on Luokan's face, and his expression was sullen. He protected the scabbard with his left hand and the handle of the knife with his right. A powerful slash suddenly arrived in front of Luo Chen. Boom! The slash did not touch Luokan, and was quickly weakened by the blocking of Luokan's spiritual pressure, and it flew out and exploded. Well, I have a bit of strength, but my slash has a total of 20 levels. Next is the second level, can you survive it? Luo Chen also pulled out the Zanpakuto, 9 tails, and said, I didn't expect you to be so petty, and you just want to come one by one, why not just go to level 20? Patras was obviously provoked, but he didn't forget his original purpose, he let out a long sigh of relief. What a big breath, wouldn't Aizen rule the 10 blades with her bravado? You want to use Bengu, right? In other words, it is you who is carrying Bengu now, and those 2 are feints. Luokan analyzed. So what? It's nothing, it just gave me a reason to kill you. After all, if you can grab Bengu now, Aizen and Pomian won't be too troublesome. Patras smiled. Since that's the case, I originally wanted to play while I was waiting for someone, but now I'm also killing me. Chapter 1181. Patras thinks that he is no worse than 10 blades. Since 10 blades can go back and forth with the captain level, he will not be at a disadvantage. Draw the knife. The swordsmanship that Patras is proud of is the source of his confidence, and he had already gained the upper hand in the battle with Renji just now. This is 20. Luo Chen lightly tapped, and the aura shock formed by the entire slash was completely dissolved, without causing any damage to Luo Chen. The aftermath passed Luokan and attacked the Urahara store. Seeing this, Renji hurriedly summoned Shiwaimaru and used her huge body to resist it. Patras swiped again. This is 3, this is 4. I'll see if you can hold on to it. How long? Luokan can clearly feel from the feel that each knife is much more powerful than the previous one. It seems that you also have 2 brushes, but I think you have also increased the output power, and in the knife's power the technique has not improved. Patras was provoked. He could allow someone to abuse him anything, but the knife, no. Patras roared and directly raised the level to 10. This is 10. Die for me. Buzz. A slash that was enough to cause the surrounding spirits to fluctuate violently was like a light cannon, turning into an extension of Patras' blade, stabbing towards the dust. Seeing this, Luokan immediately placed his Zanpakuto in front of him, turned his hand, and the blade faced the front straightly. He wanted to split this light cannon in half. Can it be done? The light cannon formed by Patras's slash is a high-energy stream of spiritual particles. As long as it is hit, it must be burned through the ground, but the spiritual power of Luokan is far higher than that of Patras, and he will not drag it too much. Cut. Luokan used practical actions to show what is called a skilled knife operation. 1 second before the arrival of the light cannon, Luokan's spiritual power wrapped the blade and slashed down vertically, creating a vacuum that isolated everything from nothing. The light cannon was easily split in 2 and shot in 2 directions, punching 2 large holes in the wall. With a flick of Luo Chen's right hand, he recovered the spiritual child on the Zanpakuto again. Momentum. Patras was furious. He didn't understand why one of his strongest moves was blocked by useless death. In his eyes, this is impossible. I used this move to solve a 10 blade. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot seeking flowers katakana middle dot 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 katakana middle dot. 10 blades. Luokan asked suspiciously. You're not afraid of being trapped, even if it's a sneak attack. Shirin is in existence at the level of captain or even above. Just you. Point attack, it's not enough to seriously hurt them. But, it's impossible. Pataras was reluctant to think about it, because he didn't dare to confirm the fact that he was being used. No, I must get the method of using the Bengyu. The Reiki in his whole body seemed to be boiling, burning with smoke and flashes. He abandoned his body and turned into a prototype. I saw that his whole body was covered with pale white, and the armor was worn to death. Whether it was his legs, upper body or even his face, it was all white, with only a little hair left, which looked very strange. Eat my trick. Luokan knew the reason why the brigade should be caught off guard. Luokan wanted to do it a long time ago when it was time to attack, but this time, he finally took the chance. 100 million. Chapter 1182. Boom. Under the slash of the completion, the entire ground collapsed. After all, it was the training ground of Urahara Lane. Luo Chen shouted before falling in with Patras. 9 tails. Renji, you protect them from above. After the 2 entered, they separated immediately. Standing on both sides, Patras looked at Luokan vigilantly. Now I'm at full gear, which is stronger than my level 20 swordsmanship. Die. At this time, 2 more broken faces fell from the top, and they were scarred and dying, and moaned, Patras, save me. Obviously, the 2 Komian didn't get good fruit from Tushilang and Ranju, and they could only flee towards Patras, but now it doesn't help, and it is estimated that they will die soon. So Patras glanced at them without emotion, and then focused on the battle with Luokan, unaffected by their calls for help at all, like a heart of stone. Don't you plan to abandon them from the beginning? Luo Chen asked. He could think that the 2 broken faces that Patras brought with him this time were probably just tools for fainting, and he would do anything for the purpose. Even abandoning companions. Patras grinned and said, yeah, that's what I thought. After all, the strength of the face that will be defeated by the death god is not very good. I don't want them. With despair, the two broken-faced lives came to an end. Luokan shrugged and said, then ye will be killed by me, the god of death, here too. Patras sneered, stopped talking, and acted immediately. After turning into a completely broken face, his speed and strength rose to a new stage, and his sword-drawn slash also changed into a new form. I saw that his arms had completely turned into the shape of a sickle, which was sharper and faster than his zanpakuto. As long as he swung it out, he would definitely unleash a powerful slash, destroying everything around him. Luokan's speed and strength after the blurring are similar to his. It seems that he still can't control the blurring he just got. Luo Chen now has 4 trump cards. One is Juwei, who is often underestimated by others, and often completes the lore when unexpected. There are 3 more. They are Blurry, Beginning, and Restriction Release. Now Luokan is only using an ability that he is most unfamiliar with, but he is able to get along with Patras. Well, Urahara is back. It's so fast, I can't delay it any longer. Naked Car felt Urahara's spiritual pressure and sighed. Shiji. 9 Tails. Luokan's zanpakuto changed from black to red and black, revealing the heaviness of the darkness, but also the burst of red, and his strength suddenly increased. Cut. The slashes from the two sides collided, but fallen dust was still better. The powerful Reiki crushed Patras, and his mask was completely shattered. Bengyu burst out from his body and shattered into 2 halves. Luokan's eyes widened, and he didn't know what to do for a while. It's broken like this. At this time, Urahara walked over slowly as if strolling in the courtyard, and saw the slowly dissipating Payeras and the broken jade on the ground. He said, your expression. Oh, this Bengyu is undoubtedly fake. Ellipsis. Chapter 1183. Fake. Huh, I thought the quality of the collapsed jade you made was not good. Luo Chen spit out, and secretly wiped a sweat in his heart. Hee, Luokan, were you nervous just now? Urahara laughed, and Luokan hurriedly made a ha-ha, wanting to perfunctory. Urahara, they must have been deceived by Aizen. That's right, I also heard that they said they stole it from Aizen. No matter what, it's impossible, and this Bengyu just proves that Aizen really just gave them fakes. What's the meaning of Aizen like this? Luokan frowned and thought. Juwei ran over to Luokan's shoulder and yawned. Urahara spread his hands and said helplessly, 22 indeed, this is completely unreasonable. Although I don't know his real purpose, on the way back, I encountered one of the 10 blades. Did you find out any news? Luo Chen asked. There is no actual news. After all, they are very loyal to Aizen. Luokan analyzed. Then it is very likely for other purposes. Aizen wants to eliminate some restless factors through this riot. After all, these broken faces really do not obey his management. However, Aizen must take this betrayal as a feint, and then he will take advantage of this opportunity to accomplish something. It is really a 3 birds with 1 stone. Luokan can only guess like this. Now that the enemy is in the dark, it's still hard to figure out. But this time it's over. Luo Chen was also in a good mood, because he had earned points just now, so why not do it? However, Ichigo, Ishida, Orihime and others were basically unaware of a series of recent events, and Luokan visited them once. Except for Chado, who was still practicing at the Urahara store in Renji, and Ichigo at the Kamen Army stronghold. In addition to cultivation, I also got other news. Luokan came to the barrier of the masked army, and once again came to visit Ichigo, who was practicing closed-ended cultivation. The current Ichigo has indeed changed a little from the previous one, but he was still hanged and beaten, and it did not change. Luokan, why do I feel that all kinds of spiritual pressures have appeared outside these days? During the break, Luokan and Ichigo chatted for a while. Yes, Aizen's activities have become more frequent now, and it is estimated that Bengyu's awakening has been confirmed. Luokan told Ichigo what had happened in the past few days. Then, next time, don't forget me. It's not that I can't control my blurring now. Next time 10 blades comes, I will definitely join the battle. Don't listen to his nonsense. Now his strength is only just getting started, and he is still far from fully mastering the blur. Fei Shili interrupted. Hey, I'm so good I can last for about 10 seconds. Ichigo responded in disbelief. The next day. What? Orihime went to practice in the Soul World. Luokan got such new news from Matsumoto Ranju. It seems that the original novice team is the only one who has been beheading Shu all day long, although this is also in the increased practical experience, but always feel that it is really lacking in meaning. What about Rukia? Luokan asked, and then was told by Luanju that he also went to the Soul Realm, and the people who were in the realm in the human realm fell directly on them. Chapter 1184. XXX. Toshiro heard the meaning of Luokan's words and said, Then, we have to train next, do you want to come together, Luokan? Oh, it's interesting, but I want to see what kind of training it is. Luo Chen's interest was brought up. Since it is the training that Toshiro also has to do, it must be of great help to him. So Luo Chen followed Dong Shilang, Luan Ju, and Gong Qin to a mountain forest. In one corner, he took off all his shirts, went into battle shirtless, sat cross-legged on a large rock, placed the zanpakudo on his legs, closed his eyes and began to meditate. Oh, so that's the case, is this the practice? Luo Chen's mind was filled with the practice clips of training his body in the waterfall and surviving in the wild in the mountains above the forest, and he was immediately more interested. Toshiro said, Actually, it's not any other kind of practice, but each has its own practice method, but no matter what it is, it's of great use to the leader-level Shinigami tilde. Looking at Luo Chen, whose appetite was invigorated, Toshiro also took advantage of the situation to say the theme of his cultivation, talk to your zanpakudo. What? Talk to your own zanpakudo? Is this true? Luo Chen was taken aback. He knew that his zanpakudo, Nine Tails, and Nine Tails were actually inextricably linked, and could be zanpakudo, Nine Tails, is another clone of Nine Tails. That would let me talk directly to Nine Tails. Tachung scratched his head. Indeed, so far I have only communicated with Nine Tails unilaterally, and I don't understand what he said. Nine Tails noticed what Luokan seemed to be thinking, and made a disdainful whimper, making Luokan a little embarrassed. However, this is only the early stage. When the Nine Tails grow up, they should be able to communicate with me. Luo Chen thought. So Luokan was not in a hurry. Toshiro and the others were either holding the saber and meditating, while Luokan stared at Juwei with big eyes. At this time, the surrounding spiritual pressure suddenly changed in fluidity, and a large number of spiritual suns began to form a turbulent flow and converge towards a central point. Everyone immediately opened their eyes alertly, because this central point was not anywhere else, but just a few dozen meters above them. Everyone looked up, and already clenched the zanpakudo in their hands. Is it Shu? Is it a broken face? Or is it that the 10 blades are here again? A crack in the space gradually cracked open, like a big virtual with a big mouth open. It was dark and chaotic inside, and the nearby spirits also began to be chaotic. From the 4 figures that appeared, Luokan could clearly feel the reiatsu that they were exposing, which was not comparable to that of Patras, but was completely at the level of Ulquiorra. Diaresis everyone, it's 10 blades. Be vigilant, there are 4 here this time, it's an incomparable combat power before. Luokan reminded. Is there really 2 old friends? Then, Luo Chen saw Yami and Grimjiao on the opposite side at a glance, and quietly used the blur to change his single reiatsu as the god of death, hiding it. Breathe out, want to see what they want to do. Is this the human world? But it seems that we have come to an incredible place. Take a look below, this reiatsu is really not weak. Yami laughed and said, let's start with these guys. Chapter 1185. You can be like this, I still have things to do. Grimjiao clearly didn't want to act with them, but had his own purpose. The current 6th of the 10 blades said with a faceless smile, do you want to find the guy who chopped off your arm? Grimjiao glanced at him, with very complicated feelings in his heart, but he didn't reply. He immediately thought of flying away, and disappeared after a while. On the ground, Luo Chen clearly felt that there was an aura rapidly heading towards the city, and 3 broken faces remained in place and did not move. Is it broken again? Toshiro was very vigilant, because the last time he fought against a few broken who were not 10 blades, he would still be at a disadvantage if he didn't use the restriction lift. This is a little troublesome. Seeing Dong Shilang's thoughts, Luo Chen smiled slightly and said, I know what you're worried about, but you don't have to worry now, isn't it just limited contact? This is a surprise, that is, you can now do it yourself. What? Luan Zhu was surprised. In the past, when he was in the human world, it took a long time to lift the restrictions. With that effort, the battle would have already ended. Luokan nodded and said, you can try it now, and you can use the restriction release immediately. I only finished the communication yesterday and learned that it was implemented. How about trying it in today's battle? Toshiro smiled. That would be better. Both parties were very tacitly prepared, and Ranju and Toshiro did not dare to underestimate the enemy, and immediately saw that the restrictions were lifted. A powerful breath filled their bodies, and their spiritual pressure increased 5-fold. Oh, it seems that we really haven't squeezed the soft persimmons. This time, some of them have played. The 3 10 blades are not panicked, because they also have the strength of the captain level, and they will not be affected much when they come to the human world. The 3 of them flew down and hovered in the air. Luo Chen and the others also flew into the sky at the same time. Everyone looked at each other and observed. But there are always people who want to make a start, and the one who stands out is one of the unfamiliar 10 blades on the opposite side. He is very handsome, and his stature is C3 compared to the average person. He has some evil spirits. Easy to deal with. Ha ha ha, everyone, I'm the 6th of the 10 blades. Ruby, please give me more advice. He grinned, showing the harmless smile of the boy next door, but it was extremely strange. Luokan said suspiciously, Number 6, I remember the number 6 last time was Grimjow. Hee, you've seen that guy, yes, but now I'm the 6th, and I'm not happy for you to mention his name. Under the cover of long sleeves, no one could see Ruby's action, but Luo Chen felt the change in the flow of spiritual energy on Ruby's body through his keen spiritual pressure, and instantly made a defense. An attack actually landed on Luo Chen's Zanpakudo, causing Luo Chen to take a few steps back. Oh, I'm blocking it. When the battle between Luokan and Ruby started, Hitsugaya, Yami, and Ranju also started to fight, but it seemed that a guy who didn't know how to fight was mixed in. I saw that the third person on the opposite side was fighting invisible at all. Instead, he was watching the birds and insects. He looked like a child. He couldn't see the desire and hostility to attack, so he ignored it and joined Luokan and Dongshilang on the 2 battlefields. Chapter 1186. Haha, I forgot to mention that it's just right for you to come with so many people. If it wasn't for many to 1, you wouldn't be able to beat me. Ruby laughed. You really know how to talk big. This might not be pretty at all. Gong Qin said. Yi Zhao roared. The battle is going to be 1-on-1, you brat. I won't intervene unless you are willing to go 1-on-1 with me. Hearing this, Ruby waved his hand. You really can't take me if you don't share it together. But before Ruby could finish speaking, Luo Chen had already rushed up, and he directly opened the restriction release. 9 tails, instantly cut open the spiritual pressure, and slashed towards Ruby's neck rapidly. The 2 were already close at hand. Boom! An explosion was generated from it. The smoke was lingering, and the surrounding tens of meters were completely covered, and the dust was bounced out without being injured, because the attacks on both sides just now neutralized. A lightning-like attack quickly came out of the smoke, and Luo Chen placed the Zanpakudo horizontally and blocked the attack with the blade. At this time, everyone could see the true colors. I saw a huge tentacle-like thing stretched out in twists and turns, like a big snake, staring at Luokan. Even if there is no spiritual power on it, if it is directly attacked to the body, the whole person will not be far from the limit. Indeed, Luo Chen's wrist was obviously numb just now, and his body and the strength of the Zanpakuto were not able to completely remove the impact force. Haha, that's why I want you to come together. Because of such tentacles, I have 8. Ruby showed her figure from the smoke. It would be better to say that his 8 sails dispelled the smoke, and the whole person showed his true face. I saw that there was a huge compass-shaped object behind Ruby, and those tentacles were sticking out from above. Luo Chen knew that this was equivalent to the solution of the god of death. When the body was exposed, all kinds of abilities would rise a level. Be careful, he has already used his true skills. Luo Chen shouted, and everyone could see that Ruby's spiritual pressure was already at the level of a captain. On the other side, the battle between Toshiro and Yami has also intensified. Toshiro has also opened the solution and is at a stalemate with Yami. Compared to the other side, Luokan's form is more like one side, fall. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot seeking flowers katakana middle dot 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 katakana middle dot. Ruby's huge tentacles are like an electric fan, spinning rapidly and dashing forward, like an 8-barreled spear, with great power. Ruby concentrated on attacking Luo Chen. 5 of the 8 tentacles were all around Luo Chen, and Luo Chen could only attack with 9 tails in a 360-degree angle without dead ends, but after all, his fists were no match for 4 hands. 0. After Luo Chen received a blow, he was knocked flying into the forest. But Luokan didn't suffer too many injuries. He said, sure enough, it's still not enough to only open the restrictions, then there is no way. After Ruby knocked Luokan off, he caught Luanju, Gongchen, and Yijiao by surprise. Look, you've all been caught by me. Ruby's tentacles had already clasped the 3 of them tightly, unable to move, and everyone groaned in pain, unable to escape for a while. Let me give you the final blow. 9 tails. Beginning, open. Ha! A slash of fiery red aura shot up into the sky, instantly severing Ruby's 8 tentacles. 100 million. Chapter 1187. Shiji, you're not a captain-level Reaper. Ruby was taken aback. Judging from the scale of the spiritual pressure just now, Luokan would definitely not be a Reaper below the captain's rank, but now it's only beginning to solve. Ruby's expression gradually changed from doubt and shock to anger. I see, you look down on me, don't you? Think I'm not enough for you to open the D solution. Luokan explained, sweating profusely. This, in fact, I said that I can't decipher it yet, do you believe it? Ah, give me death. Ruby's 8 tentacles attacked Luokan from 8 directions, but now that Luokan has activated the first solution, this speed has been able to respond. Luo Chen swung his knife and opened a knife scar aura in front of him, galloping forward, faster than Ruby's tentacle attack. Ruby hurriedly retracted the tentacles for defense. His spirit seemed to have reached a high level of concentration. Driven by instinct, he quickly blocked the tentacles in front of him, forming a protective shield. But at this time, his vision was blocked. Although he could judge the opponent's position through Reiatsu, Luo Chen didn't give him such a convenient opportunity. Buzz! In a blink of an eye, Luo Chen's knife had already driven to Ruby's neck, the cold light flashed, and Ruby's whole body had a sense of death. A phantom flash burst out. Luo Chen didn't have time to harvest his neck, so he hurriedly retreated. Even if he took a phantom flash when he couldn't catch it, it was enough. Ruby's body fell towards the sky, and there were many scars on his body. This was his self-destruction attack. Although the situation could not be reversed, his life was saved anyway. Ding! Defeat Bromian and get points. The system prompt appeared, and Luokan found that this time it was only half of the original. Hey, I said the system, did you secretly take the rebate? This number is wrong, how come it's only half of what it used to be? Luo Chen asked. The system replied bluntly, oh, are you talking about defeating the clone mask? Sorry, that loophole has been fixed. What's the meaning? You can thank me, the good times when defeating a clone will give you all the points are gone. now you only need to kill a broken face to get the points you deserve, and you can only get half of it by killing a clone or defeating it. Is the dog alright? Luo Chen was stunned for a moment, then suddenly smiled, thinking, this is not bad, although killing is simple and direct, but it cannot be used twice. This broken surface has become a recyclable resource. Forget it. After all, these shattered faces are swarming up, and I can kill one or two even when I have all my cards. It doesn't get in the way. Luo Chen completely regarded these shattered faces as cash cows, and he was a little reluctant to kill them. But for the reason of going out, although Luo Chen planned to take advantage of the victory, he felt that two unfavorable forces were colliding. He has lost his ability to fight now. Luanju, I'll leave it to you. Luokan left these words and wanted to quickly fly towards the city. Luokan, Captain, Luanju shouted. Just now, Toshiro and Yami were also fighting. Yami was very angry when she saw that Ruby had been defeated. Damn death, I have to do my best. Ellipsis. Chapter 1188. Virtual flash, quickly condensed in his hand, but before Toshiro could react, he fired several shots in a row. This is a virtual bullet. Although it is not as powerful as the virtual flash, its speed is several times faster. Can you still carry it? Yami said with a smug smile. Luokan just wanted to stop it, but at this time, he felt a familiar spiritual pressure and said with a smile, don't worry, Mr. Urahara is here. After speaking, it was like a relay race. When the dust left, Urahara appeared. 22 Luokan flew towards the city. He felt that Grimmjow and Ichigo had already met, and Ichigo used the ability to blur. Boom! The earth trembled, the streets and houses where the two fought were destroyed one after another, and now Ichigo and Grimmjow were bruised. You kid, it seems that the mask just now has either a number of uses or a time limit, but no matter what, you are now dead. Just as Ichigo fell to the ground, Grimmjow proceeded to Grimmjow was instantly frozen in the final blow. Rukia! Ichigo exclaimed. Rukia has long since recovered the power of the god of death, and she is very happy that she has finally started fighting again as the god of death. Little girl, is this your attack? With such a thin ice wall, you still want to stop me? Although Grimmjow was injured, his strength was still almost at its peak. He punched out and knocked Rukia and Ichigo down together. Virtual flash. Grimmjow was about to release the final blow, but at this time he realized that his enemy had arrived, so he slowed down. Cut. A blade of light passed between Grimmjow, Ichigo and Rukia, preventing Grimmjow's explosion. I've been waiting for you for a long time. Really? You're really single-minded, Grimmjow. But what happened to your arm? Was it cut off by Ichigo just now? Luo Chen asked knowingly. What? It's not this hairy boy. But this has nothing to do with you. I came here to fight you this time. Grimmjow said angrily. XXX. Luokan nodded. Since you are so persistent, then I will also use my latest move to defeat you. Boom. Luokan burst out with a powerful spiritual pressure, which is Shiji plus the ability to blur, faintly exceeding the level of an ordinary captain. What have you all been doing this month? Demon training. Besides, is this strange ability only one person? Grimmjow would also fade away when he saw Luo Chen, and he was very vigilant. After all, he still had lingering fears about Ichigo's blurring just now, because he had been beaten all the time, and knew that Ichigo couldn't bear the power. Luokan didn't answer, and with a dodging, almost like a teleport, he quickly approached Grimmjow, and Grimmjow also flew high into the sky at the same time, although it seemed like he was fleeing. Don't go. The dust flew up, the Zanpakuto slashed out with aura attached to it, and huge blade shadows flew across the sky, like a black dragon circling. Grimmjow could only keep dodging. He still hadn't figured out what this ability was, this white mask. It still has an air of emptiness. What is it? However, Grimmjow couldn't handle that much anymore. In the long range, he was relatively disadvantaged, so he immediately rushed to Luokan, intending to force Luokan to fight in close quarters. Ellipsis. Chapter 1189. Grimjow took advantage of the gap between Luo Chen's slash and began to rush forward frantically. Every time he was able to slash past the slash, although he was also injured, he had already narrowed the distance between him and Luo Chen. The current Luoken is in a state where both the blur and the beginning solution are used at the same time, so just now he was not just attacking mindlessly. You are coming. What? Grimjow held a sword in one hand. Although it was said that at this level there would not be much loss of strength, it still had an impact on combat. Grimjow's left side is a big gap. Although he can use his right hand to return to the block, the actual reaction is still half a beat slower. At this time, Luoken happened to be holding a knife in his left hand. When Grimjow rushed up, he gave a wrong signal. The knife on his left swung horizontally with a powerful reiatsu. Passing through Grimjow's Zanpakudo, Luoken's 9 tails broke in half. However, it also dissipated at the same time. Grimjow sensed something was wrong. Although the Zanpakudo in Luoken's left hand had a lot of spiritual pressure, it didn't have a physical sense, but he didn't care. Why did your sword break so easily, Tilda? Grimjow planned to take advantage of the victory, but Luo Chen smiled and said, of course, because that knife is fake. At some point, Luo Chen's right hand, who had been ignored by Grimjow just now, was suddenly summoned to the real Zanpakudo. Brush. The blade slashed swiftly. Grimjow dodged stiffly in the air. If he still had his left arm, he would have been chopped off by now, but because of this, he didn't hit the blade. Luoken, you are really cunning. Grimjow's face was full of anger. He was so powerless and angry now that after fighting and the lack of his left arm, he was now completely incompatible with Luoken, who had turned on the blur. Can't compare. But he didn't give up easily. It seems that he has given up. Even if he wants my life, I will take you with me. Grimjow intends to use his strongest strength, which is equivalent to overdrawing every inch of his body's spiritual power, using a ruthless move of killing 1,000 enemies and destroying 800. But Grimjow didn't think that although Ichigo's incarnation had a time limit, there would be no fallout. I can wait until his time has passed, but I really don't know if I can survive it. Grimjow planned to defend himself with all his strength before playing the real trump card. When the time limit for dust fell, he would immediately turn around. But Luoken doesn't know what he's thinking now. If he knew, he would definitely be twitching with laughter. I didn't expect Shirin to have such a naive idea. Now I really don't know who is the villain. Diaresis chop. Luo Chen continued to use the slashing strikes one after another. Although the power was not as strong as the previous state where each strike seemed to be able to hit a critical strike, the speed was faster. Grimjow noticed that this method seemed familiar, although Luo Chen learned from it. It's flickering. Rapid and powerful aura shock speeding out from the blade, Grimjow didn't dare to take the attack as powerful as a jade-tailed beast. He could only open up the protection of the Reiatsu and dodge as much as possible. Ellipsis. Chapter 1190. Come again. Luoken was not polite. He wanted to immediately defeat Grimjow, who was still bloody. He had already obtained points. He thought that he could not kill them now, and keep them in the Soul Realm and hand them over to Niyuli. Okay. Although the entire face was covered under the mask, Luo Chen showed a happy expression, because during the battle, his grasp of the blur and the control of the fusion between the beginning and the blur became more and more handy. Virtual flash. Grimjow was forced to the extreme. Whether it was in the sky or on land, he was being beaten all the time, and it felt like a few minutes had passed, but the time of falling dust didn't seem to exist yet. Arrive. Luoken actually had the idea of using him to practice his hand. Although he didn't know what Grimjow was thinking, he was so immobile that he was only beaten. Luoken didn't want to let go of this sandbag. But Grimjow fought back unexpectedly. With a single blow, Luo Chen, who was accustomed to chasing, was out of his reach and could only forcibly condense his spiritual pressure to form a barrier. Explosion. From the smoke, Luoken appeared, and he turned into ragged clothes like Grimjow. Cough, it's embarrassing, but don't think you're the only one who can use false dodge. Luokan had thought about it for a long time. Since the blur can make him have the power of the god of virtual and death, then naturally he should be able to learn the moves on both sides. Virtual Flash. Luo Chen didn't attack with a knife, but stretched out his hand, condensing a virtual flash in front of him. It is no different from the virtual flash of virtual condensation. Grimjiao's eyes widened, unable to believe the facts in front of him. Although he also noticed that Luo Chen and Ichigo had a faint aura of emptiness, the fact that he was able to use false flash was really unexpected. The virtual flash is faster than the speed of the falling dust. He galloped towards Grimjiao not far away, and hit the target in an instant. Boom! There is an explosion in the sky. The Reiatsu fluctuations of the virtual flash rippled through the entire city, and Grimjiao fell from the center of the explosion to the ground. But Luo Chen saw it. Although the explosion just now was powerful, it didn't cause much damage to it. I feel that you offset it with your own phantom. Luokan didn't receive the defeat reminder from the system, so he still kept his guard up. Grimjiao stood up with difficulty, his face grim. It seems that although I don't know what's going on with you, I'm going to do my best. Grimjiao's face sank, and he knew he couldn't waver anymore. But at this time, Ulquiorra asked to put his hand on Grimjiao's scabbard. The character is over, it's time to go. But, forget it, when I see you next time, you will be defeated by me. Although Grimjiao was reluctant, he still gave up his resistance, because the last time he had his left arm cut off for disobeying the order. This battle came and went quickly, and Luo Chen couldn't help but think, fake attack. What is your purpose? Haha, God of Death, how can I tell you this? Grimjiao laughed, as if he had finally pulled a game back in the battle, which made Luo Chen feel a sense of frustration instead. At the same time, Yami, Ruby, and the others also received the message of retreat. Chapter 1191. Although they are far apart, all the broken faces are wrapped by the beam of light at the same time, and even the broken faces that have been defeated or bound have broken free with this power and started to rise slowly. Don't run, Dong Shileng shouted to Yami, but Yami didn't take it seriously. Death, you are quite powerful, you deserve to be at the level of captain, but our mission has been completed, and we don't plan to bother. Grimjiao and Ulquiorra were also summoned under the eyes of Luo Chen, and the battles just now seemed to be meaningless. But what does Luo Chen mean when Ulquiorra said, the mission has been completed? If the purpose is not to come to the human world to destroy it, then it should be another purpose. But I didn't ask anything just now, and Luo Chen faintly felt that this matter would not be so simple. I'll go to Urahara to discuss it later. Luokan is also very helpless, but now that they can be repelled temporarily, it is alright. Things should have passed like this, but for the next day, Luo Chen always felt something strange around him, as if he was being watched. However, no matter if you searched carefully or used spiritual pressure, there was no way to catch the slightest bit of strangeness, and there was a false appearance that night, and Luo Chen also left this matter behind. If it is an enemy, I am confident that I can resist it at the moment of a sneak attack. Now let's focus on solving this phantom. As usual, Luokan used the avatar and the first solution, but at this moment, he felt that aura appear in Yihu's house. Ichigo. Luo Chen killed the Shu with 3 strikes and 5 eliminations, and ran towards Ichigo's house, but when he felt it, the aura had disappeared. Ichigo was sleeping, and there was nothing unusual about him. The next day, Luokan received the news that all the gods of death had gathered at Orahime's house, and the Soul Society seemed to be communicating. Falling dust went with Ichigo. Luokan, what else is there to say? Yihu asked. Although he asked, Luokan felt that Ichigo really had something to care about. It should be about the battle yesterday. After all, when they left, didn't they say the mission was completed? It should have something to do with it. Luo Chen guessed. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot seeking flowers katakana middle dot 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 katakana middle dot. However, the two are not too sure. Soon, Orahime's house had arrived. Two people entered, and found that Toshiro, Ranju, Rukia, Renji, Gongjin and the corner were already waiting here. They said hello to each other. At this time, the communication with Soul Society was finally connected. In a snowflake, Shuru Yukitaki's figure appeared. Fukuju, why are you? Toshiro asked. Luokan also felt wrong. Generally speaking, Yamamoto should be talking to them. Shuru Yukitaki said solemnly, everyone, this time it's me because I was the last to witness Orihime Inoue leaving the soul world. What? Luo Chen and Ichigo were shocked. If they said that, wouldn't Orihime's whereabouts be unknown? Shuru Yukitaki continued. Looking at your reaction, it seems that Inoue Orihime did not reach the human world smoothly. But the Shinigami who was in charge of the escort came back. They said that they met Pomian on the way, and that Orihime and Pomian met. It's all gone. It's probably already 100 million. Chapter 1192. At this time, Luokan recalled the same feeling from yesterday, and the aura of Ichigo's house at that time, and a trace of unease rose in his heart. Ichigo shouted, no, Inoue didn't die. This is the proof. Ichigo showed his arm and said, after the last battle with Grimmjow, my arm had a wound that could not be healed in a short period of time, but when I woke up this morning, it had already recovered. And there is Orihime's Reiatsu on it. What? Everyone looked at Ichigo's arm in shock, and they all decided that if it wasn't for Orihime, he really couldn't be cured so quickly. At this time, Luokan can be sure that the faint aura that appeared all over the city yesterday must be Orihime. But why is this? Why is there such a behavior? At this time, Yamamoto finally appeared and said, then there is only one answer, that is, Orihime Inoue has betrayed. What? Everyone's mood was as if they were on a roller coaster, one wave after another. If he was taken directly at that time, it would still be kidnapping, but Orihime healed your wounds before leaving. This is not a defection, what is this? Ichigo was choked by Yamamoto's words and couldn't refute for a while. But at this time, Luo Chen stood up and said, I believe Orihime, Ichigo, come with me to save her. Ichigo looked at Luokan with gratitude and trust in his eyes, nodded and said, okay. Renji and Ranju also said, yes, we're going to rescue Orihime. We don't believe Orihime would betray her. There must be a secret. But at this time, Yamamoto refused. No. You are not allowed to go. This is very dangerous. But I already knew you would say that. At this moment, the road to the Soul Realm unfolded in the room, and Byakuya Kuchiki and Kenpachi Zaragi appeared. Luo Chen stopped in front of the two and whispered, what are you planning to do here? Kuchiki Byakuya replied, Luokan, we are just here to bring back our team members. You guys, it's time to go back. The captain came in person, and everyone had to bow their heads. Although they really wanted to go with Ichigo to save Orihime, they couldn't disobey the order. Now is the time to prepare to fight Aizen and protect the Soul Society. Don't be too self-willed for such a betrayal. Yamamoto said. Kurosaki Ichigo, Luokan, you can't go either. The next battle requires your strength, don't try your hand at risk. Luokan replied, Ichigo was originally a non-staff member, and my captain is only a nominal person, so naturally he won't obey orders. If you say it's for the Soul Society, it's understandable, and I can understand you. However, Ichigo and I both plan to give it a shot. The two captains took the team back to the Soul Realm, and Yamamoto reluctantly cut off the call. At this time, there were only two silent people in the room. Luokan, although thank you very much, but now there is no help from the Soul Society, what did you do just now? Ichigo was very depressed. Luokan comforted. Ichigo, don't forget, we still have Mr. Urahara. I don't believe that guy doesn't know how to go to the virtual circle. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 1193. Mr. Urahara. After hearing Luokan's words, Ichigo's heart finally became clear. Now, apart from Luokan, only Urahara was really able to help him. Luo Chen smiled and said, I also believe that Orihime will not betray. Yesterday I could vaguely sense the aura that might belong to her. She might be threatened. The two felt that it was not too late, and it was very important to rescue Orihime, but Luo Chen suddenly remembered something. By the way, I almost forgot, today Mr. Urahara said that he was going to buy the goods, and it is estimated that he will be back at 22 o'clock in the evening, so one more day to wait. Although there is still waiting for Urahara, but at least I have seized hope, even though the destination is full of emptiness, the terrifying hell, but Ichigo regards saving Orihime as the only way to go today. XXX. Inoue, wait, I will definitely come out for you, and together with Luo Chen, prove your innocence. Ichigo encouraged himself in his heart. Now it's useless to wait, the two can only go to the school first. After all, life still has to be lived, so today can be regarded as a farewell to the new world. After all, going to the virtual circle this time is indeed a bad thing. But when he arrived at school today, Ichigo couldn't get up at all. He was distracted all day, and Luo Chen's performance was not very obvious, because he knew that cooked food needed a calm person to support the scene. But Ichigo's thoughts were very unusual in the eyes of Orihime's friend Longwei. She called Ichigo and Luokan's friends Keigo and Kojima. Have you noticed that there is something wrong with Luokan and Ichigo today? Ichigo can clearly see that Luokan also has that kind of atmosphere. Indeed, the two of them don't know what kind of wind they are pumping. Is it because Orihime didn't come today that they were hit hard? Keigo smiled. Longwei stabbed him fiercely and said, I only noticed because Orihime was missing. When I went to find Orihime, he was nowhere to be seen, and I can't contact him now. She gradually lost her temper, dragged Keiwu and Kojima to Luokan and Ichigo, and said, what do you know? Luo Chen poked Ichigo, who was in a trance, winked at him, and the two replied, no, it's nothing, didn't Orihime come today? We don't know where he went. Longwei frowned, staring at Ichigo and then at Luokan. His mood gradually turned from anger. You two must know the truth, right? Facing the sudden roar, Luo Chen was startled. He didn't expect the girl in front of him to have such a powerful energy. Although it was just a lunch break and there were no people in the classroom, there were still a few people looking at him with strange eyes. Luokan said, why do you see this? Could it be that Ichigo and I kidnapped Orihime? Longwei waited for Luokan and said, it's not necessarily you who did it, but it has nothing to do with you. I have seen the two of you wearing black kimonos many times and walking on the street with knives. Ichigo and Luo Chen looked at each other, guessing that Longwei's spiritual power had also increased to the point where he could see the god of death, so Longwei would also be in danger. You and Orihime have some secrets, right? Why can't I even tell you? I'm Orihime's best friend, and Ichigo's best friend, right? Longwei burst into tears as he spoke. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 1194. Luokan, Ichigo, Keigo and Kojima were really unable to make any effective way to comfort them for a while. Because Keigo and Kojima were completely ignorant, while Luokan and Ichigo hoped that this incident would not involve ordinary people, otherwise they would not be able to protect them. I'm sorry, I didn't know. Ichigo coldly rejected Longwei's question, and acted indifferently, gave up Longwei's seat, and left the classroom. Longwei was speechless, but at this time she also made up her mind. Chiwu, Kojima, go and follow them. I want to see what they are hiding. At this time, Ichigo, who was being followed, and Luokan, who was already peeking out of the distance, were on their way to the Urahara store. Ninetails roared lowly on Luokan's shoulder, and Luokan reassured, it doesn't matter, this kid Ichigo is rigid enough, but he will realize that this is a mistake. How can the bond be broken so easily? Luokan knew that Ichigo didn't really want to cut off the relationship with the crowd just now, but he was worried that they, like Orihime, would disappear or be kidnapped, or even put their lives in danger. After all, they were fighting the most powerful and darkest enemies in the entire world, and Ichigo wanted to protect them. It's here. It was already night, and Urahara was waiting at the door. I knew you would definitely come. After all, if the Soul Society didn't help, the Elmhead Luokan wouldn't know how to do it, so you would definitely come to me. Urahara said with a smile. Urahara, you bastard, who are you talking about? But there's nothing I can do now. I'll definitely teach you a lesson when I come. As soon as Luo Chen said it, he realized that it was a flag. Ichigo was not too optimistic. Mr. Urahara, please tell me how to get to the virtual circle. Kuyuan nodded and said, you too, come with me, come underground, I have a way. The two followed Urahara to the underground training ground. After a day, the training ground was in good condition. I don't know what method Urahara used. Come here, please. Urahara brought the two of them to the vicinity of two boulders. The two boulders were considered very huge on the entire training ground. On the side of the boulders, there were two crossbars, which gave an unusual aura. Diaresis Ichigo. Chadu saw Ichigo coming and shouted, I'm going too. What? Chadu, are you going too? Not only him, but also me. Ishida's voice came from the other side, revealing the same confidence as before. You, Ichigo shouted in surprise, and then said in embarrassment, but you their strength. It's done. Ishida and Chadu launched an attack, and Ichigo resisted, but it was also very difficult. He could feel that the strength of the two of them had not improved by a single star. Luokan had already felt the unusual spiritual pressure of the two of them. According to the level, it is considered to be a quasi-deputy captain level. Urahara and Luokan looked at each other and smiled. These little devils really have a youthful vibe. After everyone was ready, Urahara also started the steps to open the gate of the virtual circle. Chapter 1195. Well, you guys go back a little bit, especially the souls over there. Urahara instructed. What? We also want to watch it up close. This is a special seat. The Tibetans shouted, but they were still led to a place further back. After all, the virtual circle is not the world of corpses. Maybe even Shu himself doesn't know what is in it, and the things hidden there are not things that can survive even if they relax their vigilance. My right hand holds the boundary stone, and my left hand holds the blade of existence. Urahara stood on the wooden stake to one side and began to chant a spell. The black-haired shepherd, the lucky chair, the clumps of clouds are coming, my generation is hunting for Zu. Following Urahara's order, spiritual entanglement occurred between the two crossbars, and a spiritual pressure spread out. Then, the two crossbars saw that the connected spiritual pressure began to react. In just a moment, a huge void filled up. It was torn out like a big virtual mouth. It was also the first time for Luokan to see such a scene. Like Ichigo and the others, he was a little ecstatic. It wasn't because there was anything to photograph or a beautiful scene in it, but because there was nothing in it, but it exuded an endless feeling. Is this a virtual circle? Luokan asked. Jue rested restlessly on his shoulders, scurrying around, and stably crawled on top of Luokan's head, watching vigilantly at the black hole inside. Urahara explained. The passage through which the broken faces travel between the human world and the virtual circle is called the black cavity, but there is no path in it, and the turbulent flow of the spirits will form a vortex of spirits. So please use the Reiki to form a foothold inside. As long as you keep moving forward in the depths of darkness, you will reach the true virtual circle. Luokan, Ichigo, Ishida, and Chadu nodded, looked at each other, and knew it was time to leave. Then let's go. Be careful on the road. Xiaoyu and Jinta saw them off, but no one knew whether this time was bad luck, and Urahara didn't know either, because Ya didn't know the true strength of Luokan. Even at the level of a captain, if you fall into a siege full of emptiness, even full of broken faces and even 10 blades, even escaping is impossible. But now that it's over, it's not good to say anything more. The Black Chamber was closed soon after Luo Chen and the others entered. After all, it requires a lot of spiritual power just to maintain it, and there is a risk that the surrounding people will be involved in the vortex of spiritual children. Entering the Haicheng, the surrounding is really dark with no distant scenery. Only the four of them can see each other. They use the spiritual child under their feet to form a foothold and walk towards the front. It's really confusing. Luo Chen scratched his head. Even his Reiatsu felt like a mess here, and the only clear target point was the only front that could be clearly felt. Luokan took the lead, Ishida followed closely, followed by Aikido and Chato. The first two walked with big strides, but Ichigo and Chato were cautious. What's the matter? Isn't it bad to even use the Reiki to pave the way under your feet? Ishida pushed his glasses and said with a smile, as if enjoying the difference between Ichigo and himself. Luokan said with a slight dissatisfaction, "Damn, Ishida, I can do it too, just." Chapter 1196. With his feet slipping, Luokan's whole person fell from his footing. Luokan's eyes were fast and his hands were fast, and he even radiated his spiritual pressure to support Luokan's body. Doing so is undoubtedly very dangerous, because Luokan may be deprived of spiritual pressure by the vortex of the spiritual child at any time, reducing his strength, and it is good to have a spiritual child in such a place, and Luokan can extend it. Ichigo breathed a sigh of relief. If he really went down just now, Ichigo would be lost in the turbulent flow, and even be strangled by the vortex of spirits in an instant. Although they were afraid for a while, the four of them could only keep moving forward. As long as they didn't stop, the road under their feet would extend infinitely into the distance. Finally, after everyone didn't know how long they had been advancing, just when their minds were about to become numb, Luokan reminded, "Attention, there is a wall with spiritual pressure in front of us, we are about to arrive." The three of them were ecstatic and rushed off in a hurry. The wall was shattered. The four of them successfully stood on the ground, with a sense of security filling their bodies. Is this a virtual circle? Looking at the surroundings carefully, Luo Chen felt that this place was not simple, because it seemed to be a labyrinth. The surrounding walls were very thick, and there were several forks in front of him. Ichigo took the lead, trying to find an exit. "I should go that way till the right. Be careful, it's not easy here, don't trigger traps or the like." Luokan reminded, and Ishida was hit as soon as he finished speaking. With a crisp sound, the floor actually began to collapse, and it quickly approached the four of them. Everyone knew that something was wrong. Immediately turn back and run wildly. If this falls, what will happen to it? After finally avoiding the collapse of the floor, just when everyone wanted to take a breath, Ichigo's foot accidentally touched a button on the ground. Boom! A boulder rolled out, and the four of them were chasing after him. I told you to be careful," Ishida shouted, and Ichigo retorted, "Didn't you trigger the first one, so you have the nerve to tell me?" But after all, they had no choice but to run for their lives, such a big rock. Thinking of this, Luo Chen suddenly thought that the previous floor was okay. Why should this huge rock be avoided? Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot seeking flowers katakana middle dot 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 katakana middle dot. Cut. Luokan's nine-tailed Zanpakuto was unsheathed, and a buzzing sound sounded, as if the evening bell that announced the broken stone was ringing. Luokan waved his hand lightly, and the boulder was chopped into two sides, and fell to both sides with a bang. "Let's go on. If there are traps, maybe we're on the right path," Luo Chen commanded, but Luo Chen asked the system for a map early on. Yes, but you need to exchange points for it," the system replied. Okay. Luo Chen spent points to open the map of this area, and led Ichigo and the others to the open central area quickly. There is probably an exit from this place. Just as everyone was about to find a way to leave, two powerful auras suddenly appeared. Two breaths appeared, and when everyone saw the appearance, they immediately understood that they were two broken faces. The two of them surrounded the four of them. One of them was as tall and stout as a mountain, and the other was as thin and thin as wood, a wonderful combination. Is this smell, you guys, an intruder? 100 million. Chapter 1197. Luokan and the others surrounded them back to back vigilantly, facing the two broken faces in front of them, and the two broken faces were also watching them. Why, the broken face here is more like a ghost than those guys. Ichigo sighed. Luokan replied, although Daxu will transform into a human form after being transformed into a humanoid, the only one who can completely transform into a humanoid is the highest level Vastord. 443. Ishida also added. Furthermore, it is said that the lower the ability of the virtual, after the face is broken, it will still be very similar to the virtual. It seems that the two in front of you are indeed like this. The slender face that looked at Chi-Ali said angrily, if you just say Demora, it's fine, and even I, Esslinger, humiliated me like this, you don't have to go out, although we didn't let go in the first place. You. The face-breaking figure named Esslinger was thin, but what was even more frightening was that the limbs that he derived were like fingers, which seemed to grow two big hands, which was extremely strange. Compared to Esslinger, although Demora is huge and has extremely thick arms, it is more like a humanoid. Then there is no need to say more, each has its own purpose, we are still in a hurry, you all step back first, I will kill them. Luo Chen swung the knife, blocking the three behind. Jue jumped off his shoulders, yes, roaring with two broken faces. Are you alone? Esslinger laughed. We've been underestimated to see us. Demora, you can give them some color. As soon as he finished speaking, Demora rushed up hungry and thirsty, waving his fist, which was bigger than the van, and smashed it towards Luokan. Boom! Chadu had already rushed up and confronted Demora with his fists. A big hole was pressed out of Chadu's feet, but Chadu did not give in and was still holding on. Chadu, why did you come here? Luokan asked. She was able to dodge the attack just now, but Chadu rushed up there. Luokan, Ichigo, this battle will be handed over to Chadu and me. I want you to see our progress. Ishida Yulong bent his bow and arrow, used the spirit as a weapon, and dealt with Esslinger stand up. Ichigo also wanted to rush up, but was shot by Chado and Ishida Yulong's spirit bullets, and fell to the side. What's the matter, why are you stopping me? Ishida said, of course, it's for you to save some energy before saving Orihime Inoue, and so does Luokan. All we can do is to open the way for you. The two broken faces on the opposite side are actually not difficult, but the state of the agent is very obvious. Demora is huge and powerful, but the speed is not very fast. And Esslinger's attack speed is abnormally fast, you can't dodge without using Shunpo. But these two things are not worth mentioning in front of Chadu and Ishida. Luokan also wants to observe the fighting methods of the Quincy Exterminator and Chadu. After all, the virtualization has been created by the system, and I will come back later. What about the Quincy ability package? I can also refer to it now. Thinking about the battle center where Luokan and Ichigo left, Ishida and Chadu began to confront those two bad faces. In fact, the method was very simple. They had to defeat each other in the field they were good at. XXX. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 1198. Chadu and Demora kept punching each other, and the ground under their feet was cracked inch by inch. But it was obviously Chadu who was superior. In the constant confrontation, Demora began to retreat again and again. Chadu chased after the victory and slapped him with a heavy punch on the cheek. Directly to Daimo with Ra's face embedded in the wall beside him, Demora passed out and couldn't get up again. On the other side, Ishida Yuryu and Esslinger kept using bows and arrows to shoot at each other. The spiritual arrows of both sides kept canceling out in the air. Only those with a higher speed could win. Both sides showed their speed limit. Ishida Yulong's strength has greatly increased by this practice. If he was in the past, 9 out of 10 he would have lost, but now it is different. Of the 22 Ishida Yulong's spirit sons and fingers constantly interacted, each arrow was like a shooting star, fast and swift, forming a meteor shower-like barrage net, which beat Esslinger to the point of being unstoppable. In an instant, the battle came to an end, and Luo Chen smiled and applauded. I didn't expect that the strength of the two of you has reached this level. But it's even more powerful than this kid Ichigo. Ichigo, I am you. My cousin, please don't embarrass us, okay? Also cousin, why do you always turn your elbows out? Ichigo was indignant, but he also admitted that Chadu and Ishida have made great progress. Boom boom boom. The earth began to vibrate. The entire building actually began to gradually collapse. What's going on here? Luokan immediately dispersed the spiritual pressure, and found that the spiritual energy of the entire building was constantly being lost. In less than a while, the place would be completely turned into ruins. Esslinger said, "This is the rule. We are the gatekeepers here. As long as we lose the battle, this place will collapse. But don't be too happy. The virtual circle is not as safe as you think." After speaking, everyone fell into the darkness of heaven and earth, as if something darker than the night covered their eyes and blocked their perception. Luokan immediately dispersed the spiritual pressure and wrapped the three people in it. Later, he found out that the collapse was really just a physical collapse, and the whole building turned into powder, and everyone should not pour the lime-like residue on one end. Ninetails began to shake her body crazily, trying to shake off all the dust, which gave Luo Chen another dust to wash her face. But now it's a staged victory. The next direction we're heading for is the Zai Palace. Luokan looked into the distance, and spread out the spiritual pressure, trying to find the Zai Palace of Aizen and the 10 Blades. Hearing this, Ichigo, Chado, and Ishida also hurriedly patted their bodies. Now is not the time to relax. That's it. From a distance, a towering and magnificent building is standing in the distance. Although it doesn't look very big, it can be felt by the senses. It is definitely a giant castle, fort. Ichigo was shocked and was speechless. Luokan has basically figured out the surrounding environment. This is a place similar to a desert, and there are all things made of sand under his feet. The sky is gray, giving people a sense of depression. The Zai Palace was located on the ground in the distance. Seeing that it was close to us, everyone set off again. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 1199. The feet are full of sand, and the speed of Luo Chen and others has been hindered, but they are still running. After all, time waits for no one. Since Shuyi Palace can clearly see it, the most urgent task is to arrive first. On the other side, Aizen and the 10 Blades had already sensed the invasion of the virtual circle, and Aizen held an urgent meeting. "Everyone, 10 Blades, how are you?" Looking at the 10 Blades gathered below, Aizen smiled and said hello, and took a seat in the center, while Ichimaru-jin and Toxian were standing at the door and did not take their seats. Everyone must know that Luokan, Kurosaki Ichigo, Ishida Yulong, and Chadu Taihu have already arrived here through Area 22, and are now heading to Zai Palace. Aizen went straight to the theme. All 10 Blades took a deep breath and waited for Aizen's next instructions, but Grimmjow couldn't contain his restless mood. Before Aizen could finish speaking, he got up from his position. "Want to leave the meeting room?" Dongxian stopped him. "Lord Aizen's words are not finished yet, where are you going, Tilda?" Grimmjow had an angry look on his face. He obeyed Aizen, not Tosen or Ichimaru-jin in front of him. Such a dog-like attitude made him very annoyed. And Grimmjow touched the arm that had just been cured by Inoue. This left hand was originally cut off by Dongxianyu fake tiger might. Grimmjow has always remembered this in his heart. "I'm going to kill Luokan and the others first," Grimmjow said without a good look, and then he went out. "I am doing these things for the sake of Aizen-sama." Aizen spoke at this time. "I am very happy, Grimmjow, you can think of me, but now can I ask you to go back to your place first?" Saying that, the sword Grimmjow didn't move, so he opened up his Reiatsu, and in an instant, a suffocating pressure crushed Grimmjow's whole body. Grimmjow's eyes widened. He knew that Aizen's strength was very strong, but he didn't expect that he would be unable to move just under his spiritual pressure, and he had no heart to resist. Grimmjow's body gradually couldn't bear the pressure. He knelt down on one knee, clenched his teeth, sweating profusely. Only then did Aizen let go of the spiritual pressure. "Everyone, although they are here, please don't act without authorization. It is not easy for them to reach the Void Night Palace. I think there is no need to disturb them, just wait quietly. The 10 blades who were ordered by Aizen, he changed his original idea of directly killing Luo Chen and others, and said, diaresis yes, Aizen-sama. Luoken's spiritual pressure has always been in an overflowing state, and it covers a very wide area, but even so, he still has no way to include Yekshu Palace. What's going on? Isn't the breath of the god of death rare in the virtual circle? Why did it take so long to come here, let alone Aizen? Are you Zhao? Not a single 10 blade came over, and there are not even a few virtual ones. It is true strangeness. Even though he thought so, Luoken was still following all possible dangers within a few thousand meters. After all, this distance was only less than a minute's distance for the captain level. What's going on? It's so strange. In addition to Luoken, Ishida, Ichigo, and Chato finally noticed the abnormality. Chapter 1200. Yes, although we have been approaching there, it has been at least a few hours, and the distance has not been shortened. Luo Chen knew that this might be a realistic version of Wangshan running dead horse, or it might have been hit by the enemy. Trap. None of them can be taken lightly, but everyone needs to rest for a while now. Seeing that Ichigo and the others are slightly out of breath, Luoken plans to rest for a while. But at this moment, something unexpected happened, and Luo Chen suddenly felt a cool breeze blowing, which was the first time in the past few hours. Wow, it's so cool. Ichigo sighed. The mood was instantly refreshed, but at the same time, the wind was getting stronger and stronger, and then, it was howling like a typhoon. At this time, the gap between falling dust was not right. Yes, it's a tornado, or a sandstorm is coming. Everyone, grab whatever you can. Lu Chen gave an order, and everyone immediately grabbed the nearby dead branches or the like. However, those twig-like things are too thin to bear the weight of a person. It looks like it's about to break. Luoken immediately used his 9 tails. No matter what, the sandstorm here is equivalent to the turbulent flow of the spiritual child. Compared with the black cavity, it is much weaker. Luoken thinks that it can be split directly. The fact is all the same. Luoken quickly swung his knife, forming a vacuum-like wall around it, isolating the sandstorm and Luoken himself, but it also has limitations. In this case, Luoken only has enough space to protect himself. If there are 4 people, he will not be able to do anything. Seeing that Ichigo and the others were about to be blown away, Luoken simply narrowed the scope of the spiritual pressure and began to materialize the spiritual pressure, forming a protective shield. In just a moment, the interior and exterior are completely separated. This is the concept of Luoken using Zibo Konghei's spiritual shield. I didn't expect it to work. The 4 of them were temporarily safe. They only needed to wait for the sandstorm to pass. They stayed in the safe Lingxi passport and watched the raging sandstorm outside. Their hearts were still heavy. Gradually, the sandstorm has disappeared, and there is no longer the sound of wind and sand rubbing against each other, and everything is silent, except that a thin layer of sand has accumulated on the protective cover of the fallen spirit. Sha-sha! A creature sprang out from under the sand, glanced at Luoken and them, and then quickly left. There are creatures here too? Ichigo questioned. This should be a phantom, it's just a relatively low-level phantom. Ishida Yulong explained. It's probably a low-level phantom that can survive by relying on the spirits in the atmosphere. You should pay attention, the spirits in the atmosphere here can feed the emptiness. You can imagine how thick the spirits are here. In such an environment, the enemy is bound to be strengthened like never before. We are not familiar with each other. Be careful, Luo Chen reminded. At this moment, the cry of a child came from far away, and it was getting closer and closer. I saw a child running wildly, and behind it were 3 phantoms. Children, how can there be a child here, and how did he get in? But even if you have doubts, you can't just let it go. After all, the child was eaten by the virtual, and they would stand by and blame themselves.